Hi everyone, my name is John Gavin. I'm here with Jessica Powers, and today we're going to cover the first 90 days of an agent's career or entry into the business. And I think that the 90 days is so vital to an agent's growth because it can make or break someone's career in this industry. There's a few things that you want to make sure that you do, whether it's you in your first 90 days or whether you're hiring and you have agents that are in their first 90 days. Because this is an industry where you can make a lot of money really quick. We've got some agents that Jessica's got one agent now that in his second month he issued 42,000. So we're talking about our first 90 days and how to get started fast. He did it in 45 or 60 days. And I think we're going to cover some of the things that are really important and helpful to those agents to get those fast starts. I think the biggest one is when we hire people is to set the right expectations. A lot of people are coming from an industry that may be outside of insurance and they may not have any sales background whatsoever. So everything they do might be new to them. And so I think it's really important to set those expectations and let them know what they're going to be experiencing over those first 90 days. So Jessica, what are some of the things that you use and you help your agents get going with over the first 90 days there?
Absolutely. And I agree with you, John. The first 90 days is very, very important. We really focus first and foremost, and I know you as including, is that getting paid that first pay.
Absolutely.
Because that's what makes this real,
Yep.
right? This is what takes it from, oh, this is too good to be true to
Mm-hmm.
real. But the next step is to keep repeating that again and again,
Yep.
right? Not just get one pay and that be it. So there's definitely some key factors that myself and a lot of other agents have taken, the initiative to do. First is plugging in, right? Just getting yourself plugged into the team, right? Creating that culture for yourself that you're not alone,
Yeah.
right? Because this can be new and can be nerve-wracking to you, but I can guarantee you there's tons of other people that are experiencing it or have gone through it.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that my agents come to with me about, I've dealt with it, right?
Yeah.
Or I know somebody that has, so
Yeah.
we can talk you through that.
Yep.
Second is just getting really comfortable with leads, right? The first 90 days is really not necessarily to have this goal of I need to be so profitable. It's more so, what kind of learning can I do? What kind of skills can I achieve and can I learn in that 90 days, right? So getting really good at getting leads, getting good on the phones, mastering the phones, which are 80% of what we do,
Yeah.
right? And getting in the home, going through the financial inventory, doing the in-home, practicing that again and again, right?
Yep.
The goal is to get to your first 100 sits, not appointments, not leads, 100 sits as quickly as you possibly can. Now, is that going to take you a month? Is that going to take you? That depends on how quickly you go, right?
Yeah.
How good you are on the phones, how many leads that you get. But agents that have success are the ones that get in the field quickly,
Yep.
right? And keep doing it over and over again and fail forward quickly, not take forever and be nervous to buy, should I buy 20 leads or 30 leads? I can tell you the agents that, that don't skimp on those, they don't skimp on themselves because we're investing in ourselves. You're not investing in an employer or things. You're not an employee. You're 1099, right?
Yep.
So we want to make sure that you're putting everything in your favor.
Yep.
Before I came to Family First Life, I actually had contemplated going back to school. As in the medical field, I continued going back to school to be a nurse. And I contemplated, I'm like, okay, so I'm going to have a couple more years of school and I'm going to rack up the debt. Well, here I was able to turn my annual income into my monthly income in a year,
Yeah.
and I had no student debt.
Yep.
I've seen so many people come on, the agent that you mentioned, that was able to turn their entire lives around just by betting on themselves.
I think one of the things you touched on is really important. And here at Family First Life, we want to make sure that we get the agents paid very quickly. But a lot of the numbers that people see, it's almost not believable.
Right.
If you see the issue paid numbers, which our comp starts at 90 and goes up to 145%, but the issue paid numbers, even at 90%, the numbers that we put up are astronomical, and so it is hard to believe. And so from the outside looking in, people think it's a gimmick that people aren't really making that kind of money. And so when we get agents paid quickly, and they run, several appointments, and they get a deposit for, $500, $600, $700, sometimes $1,200 for an hour's worth of work, then it lets them know that that's real. Okay, so now we've established that yes, what we do is real, but that's not the end game. We want to get that consistency. So we want to build it up, and we want to get them not just writing one policy, but get them up to speed as quick as possible and continuously writing policies. So how is it that when you have a new agent and you're addressing leads with them, how is it that you address the lead situation? Because it's a little bit different. A lot of other insurance companies, they don't have leads. They bother their friends and family. They do other things to get their business. But we work through a lead program where we only talk to people who have inquired about getting life insurance in some format or another. How do you address the lead situation with your new agents?
Absolutely. I think that's a great question, because in the beginning for me, leads were I was really nervous about them.
Yep.
Right? I was not used to having to invest in myself. And as we mentioned earlier with our lead strategy, is that leads are your lifeline. They're the fuel to your business. They're contacts, right? If you buy 20 leads, it's not 20 people that you're going to go and sit with, right? These are 20 people that have expressed some sort of interest in life insurance. Some are very interested, some are not, right? Our goal and our objective is to find the people that are, right? And by our skill set and by continually going through those reps, right? Pro athletes, things like that, they weren't initially great, right? They stumbled, but they didn't give up. They kept going and kept going, right? So what I tell our agents is just keep reinvesting in yourself, keep betting on yourself, keep purchasing the leads, keep putting in the work and the reps, and that's when the magic happens. That's when you keep going. Having yourself on a set schedule, right? And I think that that's one of the big things that I see new agents struggle with is they come from, a W-2 where they have a set schedule, they know what they're supposed to be doing, and then you come on here where, you're independent. But reality, that's when you want to be even more stringent on your schedule. You want to treat yourself like an employee, right? Would you hire yourself or fire yourself for the day?
Every day.
Keep going. So what I used to do is I'd block schedule my time. Have specific dial days, specific times. I'd mark my calendar of when I was supposed to get on and buy leads because I needed to treat myself like an employee because I knew that I needed to have that commitment and that accountability to myself, which really brings into where, for these 90 days, you should be setting goals. You should be understanding this is not just one big mountain you have to climb. It's reaching those next step. What did you do last week? What did you do yesterday? Just be better than you were yesterday and keep ratcheting up and making sure you hold yourself accountable, right? Having that mentorship and that being able to check in with the person who's helping guide you through this is going to be key. So don't be a secret agent, right? Check in with your mentor, have conversations, continuous conversations. Where are you at? How many dials? What's going on? Because that's the blueprint. You don't have to recreate this, right, John?
Nothing at all.
You don't have to recreate this.
The great part about, we're going into our 7th year now, and everything's been perfected.
Right.
We have the phone scripts that work. Okay, we have the lead programs and the leads that work. We have the training that works. And so for an agent coming in their first 90 days, plugging themselves into their system is so incredibly important because we're not asking anybody to reinvent anything at all. It's just do what other people have done to become successful. Those big numbers, almost like the cartoonish numbers that people are putting up now have all been reached by people that are just plugging into our system and following that. So you don't have to reinvent anything else. It's a copy and paste of everything. That's what Matt used to always say, and that's all we do now. So our phone and the tools that we use now that we've got live dials. So when I first started, I was given a script, I was given some leads, and I just dialed them. And so now we actually you can watch someone dial live and see them overcome objections and get coached by somebody else and get them helped along, so you don't feel like you're out there on an island working by yourself and the only person gets told I'm not interested and that sort of thing. So we actually can see people and how they overcome objections early on and get better on the phone, because like you'd mentioned before, the phoning is 80% of what we do. The product knowledge is only 5%. And so if you get good on the phone, you get your jump start ahead of everybody else. And like you had mentioned, getting to those 100 sits is so important. I think one of the greatest stories we have is Easton Padden, and how he, they would post, the Southeast group would post their appointments that they had and their sales. And a year and a half ago, he had 83 appointments, and I think he had 5 sales because he He wasn't very good. He was just early on. But what he did do was he continuously invested into himself. He continuously dialed, and he organically got better to now he's one of the top agents in the country. And I think he's going to issue about 700,000 this year. It's a year after not be able to close a door. He couldn't do anything at all. And so, it's one of those things where we have this system put in place. So what are the other things that agents should expect in the first 90 days?
I would say that's a really good question. And I think that you're right, like having those proper expectations is that having a proper expectations about the leads, right? Like I mentioned, but I think that's real, is understanding that you got to get really used to the no's, right? It's just like with any sales, you got to get comfortable with the no's because, once you get through your no's, you're going to find your yeses, right? And like we said, the reps, right? Going through multiple times of having that no, 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 things like that. I would also say making sure that you're not, like I said, the secret agent. John touched on signing up for live dials. That's huge. Yeah. It's uncomfortable, right? It's so uncomfortable. But I can tell you the people that sign up for it, not just once, but again and again and again, and they put themselves out there, those are the people, right? Like Easton Patton was the person that probably everyone goes, oh my gosh.
Do you know who the first person to sign up for live dials was?
I don't know who.
Brad Allen.
There you go. Brad Allen signing up for
very first one. Yeah. So it's so important to take advantage of that. And sort of what you were talking about as being a secret agent is Family First Life, more now than ever, is a gigantic support system. And so you can be in any place in the country, even if the person that hired you is not in your state. We're going to have 400 offices across the U.S. by the end of 2021. It seems like we have grand openings every week. And so being such a big support system is you don't have to necessarily go to the office of the person that hired you. They can actually be in another state, which happens quite often, and you can get plugged into another dial team. So I think it's really important to be around that culture, to be around people that are dialing, be around people that are taking it seriously and learn from them. Because if you operate as a secret agent by yourself, you're not going to get a whole lot better. Okay? And so one of the things that we do is we plug people into different agencies across the U.S. and take advantage of the great training that we provide as well too. So if you were to, in your group, when you have agents coming on board, after they're plugged into the dial team, after they're watching the training videos, what are some other things that you recommend that they do to be really successful in those first 90 days?
Absolutely. Well, I think that one of the big things that we do besides getting the dials and the training is having goals set out for you, knowing what you're doing, like why are you there, right? Like for me, I knew why I was there. I knew I was here. And if we have a clear vision as to why you're there and what you want, it makes it a lot easier, right? I'm a big believer on the immediate massive action plan. What am I doing? Why am I here? What am I going to do? Right? So figuring out those, getting to understand, like when I'm talking to an agent, like say Courtney, it's like I want to know why Courtney's here. I want to know what her life is like. I want to know what we can do for her to be successful. Right? But it's not going to happen just like if I don't want it enough, it's not going to happen. If you don't want it enough, it's not going to happen. Right? It's always comes down to what are you going to do? And a lot of times it's looking at what do you have to give up? Right? What distractions do you have as a new agent? What habits do we have? Do we stay up too late and watch TV? Are we doing things that aren't in our best interest? Are we listening to people say, oh my gosh, why are you doing that? You can't make any money doing that. Meanwhile, they're working at the convenience store, which is a great job for them, but that's not your goal. That's not your vision. They're not going to understand that. So realizing that the people that are helping you have your best interest.
Absolutely.
Right? Like when I started, John, I knew you had my best interest. Right? I wasn't going to listen to Bob or Tina down the road about what I was doing because they didn't know what I was doing. Right? I wasn't going to listen to my naysayers or things like that. I was going to bet on myself. Right? And I knew that I needed to follow a path. I needed to plug in. I need to treat myself like this was a career, not a hobby. Right? I wanted life-changing results, but I wasn't in the beginning, right? If you're not willing to change and have those life-changing things, like you're not going to do great in this if you get up at 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock. Get up early, have a good mindset. Whatever that sounds corny, right? Work out, whatever you need to do to have a strong mind, right? And get out there and buy the leads, go on your appointments, sit with the families, plug in, right? You're not alone, and go to work. It's not that difficult.
No, and there's so many good things that you just said right there. The biggest one that I hear is holding yourself accountable. And because a lot of people that come into this industry are for the first time self-employed for the very first time.
Right.
So they're used to punching a clock and being told what to do for the next 8 hours or knowing what they're supposed to do for the next 8 hours. Here it's a little bit differently. There's no one standing over your shoulder telling you what to do. And so I think it's imperative that you set those goals and hold yourself accountable to them and work with your manager, whoever brought you on board, to see where you're at in line with those goals. The other thing that I think is huge, and it's kind of ironic that you mentioned that, because I had an agent call me up yesterday who just came on board with us, and he is incredibly sharp, incredibly talented, and he's younger. And he got through the course. He got the course on a Thursday, scheduled his test on a Tuesday, and then passed it with 90-something%. So in 4 days. And then flew through contracting. He bought leads, and we had talked about what his next 90 days is going to look like, and he had said to me that he knows that he's going to lose friends because he's 22 years old, and there's going to be either people that want to join him and be as successful as him, or there's going to be people who are going to be resentful of his success, and so he's prepared to move on from those. So when you hit a certain level of success, you tend to get those naysayers or people who don't have your best interest in mind. But the best part about Family First Life and how big we are right now and having that big support system is you have plenty of people here that do have your best interest, that do have your back, that want to see your success and are your support system. So it's a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that with utilizing these tools that we've put out there, just knowing, again, you're not alone, right? You're going to plug in, get really good at leads over the phone, having that support network, continuously checking in and keeping yourself accountable.
Yep.
There's no reason that you can't be successful, right? It all depends on what you're going to do and what changes that you're going to make. So I'm really excited to see where everybody goes, and I hope this helped.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Tiffany Grunberg with Family First Life Northwest, and I'm here today with Jessica Powers, also of Family First Life Northwest, to give you some insight on your first lead purchases as a new agent here. So Jessica, can you give us some insight on what your mindset is when you do your first lead purchase?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tiffany. I think that's a huge conversation to talk about. Most of us come from a W-2 or an employee, and the concept of purchasing leads and investing in ourselves can be a little scary, a little foreign. And if we understand that that's how we're going to make a difference, right? That's how you're going to go from being an employee to, making the financial changes and the financial difference that you're looking for. And knowing that it's okay. It's okay to feel a little uncomfortable. But in order to grow and to do big things, we have to make big changes, right? So investing in yourself, knowing that you are leads are not, if we get in the mindset that leads are not a bill, right? Leads are not a bill, something that you dread. Leads should be exciting, right? I'm excited when leads come in. I'm excited when I have to purchase leads because that means that I'm going to make money. That means I'm going to help more families. And if I can get that mindset and get out of the dread or I'm going to try to skimp and get as least amount as I possibly can, then I'm betting on myself, right? You're betting on yourself. So do you want to make it harder or do you want to make it easier, right? And that's when it comes to the investment in yourself, right? Now, if we get the mindset down and we understand, that leads are important and we should be excited about leads, that they're not a bill, things like that, a lot of times what we get is agents who wonder, what's next? What really are leads? What type of leads are out there? What type of budget am I looking for? Tiffany, how do you answer that? How do you determine, what type of leads to get, what type of budget you should be spending, things like that?
So that's probably the number one question from any agent within their first 90 days. What do I do? And a lot of that comes in because, like Jessica was saying, your mindset is in a fear capacity. So the biggest thing I will tell you on a simplified thought process when it comes to your leads is you need to start your budget and look at it as in, this is how I'm starting my business. So I recommend that we look at about a $500 instant or your first time deposit is about $500. Now we'll break down what that means as far as which leads to look for, which leads to purchase and things like that. But like Jessica was saying, let's make this easier.
Right.
Let's make this easier on our agency and our agents. And that's going to be with being realistic about what you need to invest. And if you're just brand new starting and you're thinking, $500 is a lot of money, I understand that because we were there. We 100% were there. And the reality is it will seem like a lot in the beginning, but the ratio that you get back, that ROI, that return on investment, is so massive, and it just keeps getting greater over time. So we are going to recommend that you look at $500. Now, if you don't have $500 in the bank, we totally understand that. That's not saying you can't work with us, but it's saying that whatever you have to do, put it on a credit card, borrow, do whatever you can to get that original investment is going to completely change how your business gets started. You can't do much with scared money. So what we recommend is to really look at, we typically focus on 4 different types of leads. We have our internet life leads. We have, and that's, in our CRM, we also have some cherry pick lead orders, which those are instant. We have the instant internet leads. We have the CRM second chance type of leads. Those are instant. They can be in your hands within 24 and 48 hours. And we really like that. But we also have social media leads where you can go out and place an order with a specific vendor. And you should reach out and talk with the person that hired you to get information on those vendors. They're constantly changing. We're constantly doing what we call lead mining, where we're looking at different resources to get you in front of the best leads that are available, especially on the social media platform. There are some opportunities as well for direct mailers, which is where your clients are going to fill out a form requesting the information. The only 2 differences there is that one are pretty instant with your internet and social media leads. Mailers are going to take a little bit longer, and it's kind of an upfront cost, right? So when we talk about that $500, we really encourage you to buy as much volume in those first, that first lead purchase as you possibly can. And it's for simple math reasons, right? You're gonna struggle a little bit on the phones. You're not gonna be as good as you think you are, because that's just how it works. So the more leads that you can get and the more qualified leads that you can get in that first, lead purchase scenario is gonna put you in a position to win a lot more than being scared, right? Jessica hit the nail on the head when she said, these leads, they're fuel, they're our oxygen for this business. You have to put yourself in front of people. And the only way really to do that. Now, do you have to purchase leads? No. You can build your business on referrals. We definitely recommend that. But most top producers, actually, I'm going to correct that and say all top producers purchase leads here at Family First Life. Right. So that's going to be our breakdown of strategy. We want you to do a $500 original deposit. And it's going to be a combination of a brand new social media lead purchase, as well as, whatever we can find that's going to be an instant lead flow for you within our CRM and the instant internet leads. And we have so much volume in there. It's just, it's kind of a crazy scenario. We definitely have people you can go out there and help. So Jessica, when we talk about that and that original investment and that kind of fear thought process, right? How do you continue your business and not worry about that $500 investment? Like, how do you recoup that? What happens?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really big thing that we need to talk about, right? We get together the $500, we go out, we buy leads, we get on the phone, we book appointments, we write a policy, we get paid, and then what, right? Most people go pay their bills or take their family to Disneyland, right?
Yep.
That's not the right answer, right? That's a way to get paid and then to be out of business very quickly. What you need to do is purchase your first set of leads, go out, help some families, get paid, and then reinvest back into your business. If you started out this business and you had no money, then my advice to you is that at least your first 2 to 3 policies go right back into leads, right? Because what you're trying to do is leads are your inventory, right? I explain to agents that if you had a sandwich shop, right? You have a sandwich shop, you're gonna need the bread and the meat and the cheese and the condiments and everything like that. And if you run your business for the week and people come in and buy your sandwiches and you don't reorder your ingredients, well, now you're out of business, exactly. Right? The difference here that I find is that, in the beginning that everybody talks about how much money are you going to make? What's my return on investment? That's not our goal right this second. Our goal is to just get as many families that we can help, get in front of as many families so we can learn and we can get better and get better. What I see is that people go out and buy 20 leads they'll get in touch with maybe 10. They'll write a couple policies. Say you spent $500, you get paid about, say, $1,700. You got that initial $1,000 back. Well, then they say, well, I don't need to buy any more leads because I still have, or I'm going to buy less because I still have 10 people that I can't get in touch with. That's not the right answer. Is you want to keep growing. You want to keep that inventory going. You want to keep having new people to get in contact with, because that's how you're going to fund your business. Now, once you've gotten to the point where you've invested your first couple policies back into your business, then transition to the 50-50 rule. If you get a $1,000 deposit, that's not $1,000 to you, right? 500 of it goes right back into leads. The other 500 can go to your family, right? It's keeping that division of knowing that these leads, the money that I've got coming in is not just all my money, right? Because we've all come here to make money, right? We don't want to just be a one-hit wonder and buy a batch of leads and make some money, and now we can't buy any more leads again, and now we're stressed out, and we're, and stress does nothing good, right? So we have to keep ourselves out of that emotional roller coaster, and the answer is always activity, right? We hear all the time, you don't have a money problem, you have a people problem, right? We just need to get in front of people. So now that we understand, that leads are a contact, right? We've got leads as a means to get in front of people. Tiffany, what do you feel would be our next step, right? Like, I understand what leads are. I know what types of leads are. Like, what do I do next?
And that's the stall, right? We have so many agents that come into the business, and they'll, for example, watch this video and they'll think, okay, now what? That now what can keep you in the now what stage and the getting ready to get ready for so long. Now what you need to do is you need to reach out to whomever hired you and whoever your person is that's going to help you through this journey to get your business started. And you need to set up a very personalized lead strategy where you can talk about whether you need to purchase final expense leads, which is a simplified issue life insurance plan, or if you're going to do just internet traditional life leads. There are different types of leads, and they're going to be specific to you and what your goals are for your business. So you do need that touch base with your hiring manager or whomever brought you into the business, and they will get you started. They will give you that personalized direction with your personalized lead budget, and they will tell you which lead vendor, here's what we're going to do now. And then I'm telling you right now, you have to jump. You have to get to work. You have to go. You have to understand 20 leads does not mean 20 appointments. 20 leads means 20 opportunities. Right. And again, your skill set's not going to be as amazing as you think it is right off the bat. So like Jessica and I have both been telling you, the more leads, the more opportunity, the more you have to be able to make that return on investment go faster, right? Let's get you from point A to point B in a straight line instead of going up and down and sideways on that roller coaster Jessica was talking about. So that is our advice on your basic lead strategy to get your business started and started quickly. You guys, again, reach out to your team lead and whomever you are working with and get out there and make your first lead purchase.
Hi everybody, my name is Matt Smith. I'm here with Tiffany Grunberg. We're with Family First Life Northwest, and the purpose of this video is to get you trained and ready to conquer the phones. 80% of this business is the phone, 15% is the in-home, and 5% is product knowledge. But if you don't get great on the phone, you'll never make the progress you need in order to really catapult yourself into success here at Family First Life. So I want to make sure and spend some time with you and have Tiffany. She's been very excellent on the phone the entire time. And we'll go over, how to approach each lead type. We'll even talk about overcoming objections and give you, thoughts on your tone, scripts, everything. That's what this video is meant to be for. So let's talk about the different types of leads that someone is going to call. You're really only going to call, direct mail, which would be final expense and mortgage protection. You're going to do internet leads, which is your instant internet lead or any other internet lead you might purchase. And then also you're going to have your social media leads that, generally speaking, are, final expense as well. And some of the questions that I always get about phoning is, how do I approach each leads, which I'll spend some time on, and then I'll pass it to you for some objection training that we'll both work on together and go from there. So a lot of times when we're phoning, I'm not a big believer in saying you're calling from the Benefits Center or the Mortgage Protection Center or different made up names. I am pretty specific on why I'm calling, and it's all about what type of lead they filled out. So, when I call someone, I say, hey, this is Matt Smith. I'm getting back to you in regards to the, final expense and burial plan you requested on Facebook. The purpose of my call is just to verify that information. So I'm not saying anything tricky or anything that would cause questions like, who are you with? What's this about? All these things. I'm very direct in that first 7 seconds, because that's the most important thing, is making sure you're assertive. You don't sound like a telemarketer. A lot of times why people will hang up on you is because you do sound like a telemarketer, which we could talk about. But whether it's, a final expense Facebook lead, or whether it's, internet life lead, hey, this is Matt Smith. I'm getting back to you on your online request for life insurance quotes. The purpose of my call is just to verify some information. Same opening, whether it's, if it's a mortgage lead, I'm just saying, this is Matt Smith. I'm getting back to you in regards to paying off your mortgage if you were to die. The purpose of my call is just to verify that information. So it doesn't matter what the lead source is. I'm just verifying what that is, and I'm setting that appointment as well. A couple things that I like to do in regards to scripts up front is, after I've said the purpose of my call is to verify this information, I have your, height, weight, or whatever information is on the card. I have your address as this. I have your, age at this. Now, when you took the time to fill out this form, was it to alleviate the burden for final expenses on your family? Was it to pay off the whatever the lead is, right? Alleviate the burden on your family for final expenses and burial costs? Was it to make sure to have the loan paid off if you were to die? Who is the beneficiary essentially? So I want to get to know their why, Tiffany, because every time I get to know their why, I'm able to actually know that they care enough, and those are the people that we want to sit with. Now, if somebody says, I don't know why I filled out the form, or I don't, then you're kind of dealing with the uphill battle. So the reason why I always verify information and say, when you took the time to fill out this form, who was your primary beneficiary? Was it a spouse? Was it your adult children? Was it your cats and dogs? Whatever it is.
Right.
I need to know, simply because then I know you care. And then, Tiffany, talk about, after we verify that information, the best way to tie down the appointment, go over time frames, all that stuff, because I think tying down the appointment is something that's crucial. You're going to have some no-shows. About a third of your appointments you set are not going to sit with you. However, if you're getting more than about a third, it means you're doing something wrong on the phone. So let's talk about how to tie it down.
So I think that one of the biggest things is when you are talking to people, and here's the thing, when you first talk to a new agent who tells you they're great on the phone and you want to run script with them, 99.9764% of the time they are not going to even know the script. So like when Matt's talking about how to verify that information, you have to go in and practice it. I used to practice it in the mirror in the car when I was driving to appointments. I needed to get better. And then you add in tying things down, and it's just that next step, because your no-show ratio, right? You can't beat yourself up when you have a third of the people that don't sit with you, but when it's 50, 60, 75%, that's you. That's 100% you on the phone. So when it comes to tying down an appointment for me, I'm very simple. I think I learned, Matt, from you, and I just parroted mostly. And that's just a simple conversation with your client to say, hey, John, I appreciate it. Thanks for sharing the information with me. Now, I'm dispatched in your area on Tuesday. I don't have a ton of time. I see about 10 families per day, and I have availability. Now, this is a key. You want to give them 2 times to pick from. Okay, I have a 10 a.m. and I have a 4 p.m. Which of those 2 times works best for you? Now, if you just go at them with a specific time, they're not going to be available every time. Now, they may sit at home staring at their TV for 24 hours every day. You tell them 10 p.m. or 10 a.m., they're not going to be there. Right? They're going to be busy. So if you give them 2 opportunities to choose their time, I think 4 o'clock works better. Perfect. Now do me a favor. I need you to grab your calendar and I need you to write my name down. It's Tiffany. What time did we say? 4 p.m. Perfect. I will see you then. Now I need you to do me a favor. Because I have 10 families that I have to see every day, I need to just make sure, is there any reason you and your significant other would not be there at that time? Because if so, we need to find a time that you can both be there. I don't want to give this time away and, so on and so forth. So when you're doing that, you've given them the opportunity to own the time, right? I will be there at 4 o'clock. You've also given them your schedule. Listen, I have a lot of people I have to see. My time is valuable, so is yours. We're not wasting time. That's a big objection that we hear a lot. I don't want to waste your time or mine. So moving forward and just making sure that they understand I am coming to see you. I'm delivering this information to you. I think is how you tie that down. And then I like to ask them, what time did I say?
Yeah.
So that they can repeat it back to me and I know where we've gone. We know exactly I'm going to see you guys then. And I like to say I'll see you then.
I think it's important for you guys to understand with those tie downs too is, any reason why we won't both be there, right? And then also, layering it with, are you good at keeping your appointments?
That's great.
You know what I mean? Are you good at keeping your appointments? And the other thing that we need to address is, so you've got your introduction, you got your verifying of information that we just talked to you about. Then we got to make sure and sell time. Say, hey, I'm going to be dispatched out in the area. It's going to take 10 to 15 minutes of your time to get you this information. So when we're on the phone, it's just concentrating on getting this information. We're not giving any quotes on the phone. We're not doing any of that. It's just purely, it's going to take 10 or 15 minutes to get to this information. And then the key aspect, which a lot of new producers fail on, is, especially with someone that's working, say, are you working or retired? I'm working. What time are you and your spouse generally home from work? So now we know that we don't need to do a 10 a.m. time and a 4 a.m. It's more like, I can squeeze you in on Tuesday between about 5 and 5:30, or I have a 7:30 to 8, which works best for you. So now we identify the proper time to where they're going to actually both be home and both be able to present that product to them. So it's crucial to, introduction, have good rhythm and pace, have confidence, right? Then you're moving into verifying that information. Then you're moving into selling time and the appointment and the information to them. And then that tie down's your final piece. And they should be really quick, amount of time on the phone. You shouldn't be on the phone for layers of time. It's not that complicated, but it's amazing to me how many times, because we do a lot of live dials. So Mondays and Thursdays on Zoom, we get on and we train agents to make phone calls on the same leads that everybody else is calling. So one of the important parts about phoning is making sure you're plugging into the office that you work closest to, or live dials with your team. Because then you'll get to see producers calling the same leads that you're calling and deal with the same objections, and then you can steal some things from people that you like and disregard the things that you don't. That's crucial as well. But you got to make sure to become a student of the game, because just like Tiffany mentioned, I see a lot of people wing it. And so many people wing it, and it is the biggest epidemic in our industry is how bad people are on the phone. So if you think you can get into the business and just wing it and think that the money's going to follow, I promise you not the case, because the biggest thing I can tell you is you don't have a money problem in this business. You have a people problem. So your job is to get great on the phone to eliminate that people problem, then the money follows every single time. So let's talk about some of the objections that you'll receive on the phone. I'll start with, a lot of internet leads. And by the way, you can use this portion of the objections, and I'll throw some at your way, and make sure that you understand how to overcome these certain objections. So a lot of times with internet leads, Tiffany, or any lead, whether it's, I just want the price, that's probably their number one thing, and why they don't want to meet with you is, I just want the price. And it's crucial to acknowledge people. A lot of new producers, when they're on the phone, they don't even acknowledge what people say. They go so far into the script that they don't even acknowledge that they're a human being on the other side of the phone. It's like they
don't listen at all. At all. And it's like when we're training and listening, and here's how I know like we haven't practiced enough, is because it's very simple. When you get an objection at you, you stare. And you do nothing because you don't have anything come to you quickly because you haven't practiced enough. And the client wants to object. It's natural. It's human nature to want to object to something like that, especially since telemarketing is a huge, epidemic in America, right? We have tons of telemarketing calls. So when you are on the phone and you haven't, worked on it and practiced, this is what makes you great on the phone. This is why Matt is so good, is because his brain, brain works 1,000 miles an hour when it comes to an objection, but he listens. Like, I'll watch people and they'll be like, oh, I can't because I'm at the coast today and tomorrow. Great, so you'll be there at 5 p.m. tomorrow? No, you have to listen. You have to find that way to hear both sides, but you also need a key phrase. Whatever your turnkey phrase is, so mine's perfect. I like to say perfect, that's the purpose of my call. Or perfect, no problem. And then you move into going right back to the script and setting the appointment. But you do have to listen enough to be able to actually correspond and relate to that person, because you want to be someone they want to see. Someone who just barrels through you, you're going to be like, this person's never going to listen to me. I don't want you in my home. Totally. So you have to learn to be somebody that they want to see. And that, we find that as one of the biggest things that is a problem, is when you do get an objection or you don't get off the phone soon enough. I'm like, oh, they got it. And then they're still on the phone. Like, no, hang up. Like, you got it.
Yep.
You got it. So I think, we can definitely, talk about those objections, but that is the first thing that I notice is when an objection comes your way, you have to be able to critically think. You have to be able to listen and move forward. Just acknowledge and move on.
And it's important when those objections happen to move back to the script right away. And that's why, like you said, perfect, that's the purpose of my phone call. It's such an easy transitional phase to whichever avenue that we'll talk about here as far as overcoming objections. Because what I see a lot of times with producers is they get caught up and they try to make things up. I see it all the time. Like, no, where did we train that at?
Wait, no one said that.
Yeah, okay, you can't say bad things. I promise the leads don't suck. I promise the phone skills probably suck most of the time if you're not setting appointments. So, if you understand that price is a big motivator for everybody, right? Then, and you just, whatever lead type it is, hey, I just wanted the information or I just wanted the price, right? Same thing. Say, actually, great, that's the purpose of my phone call. These are non-medical options, which requires me to ask you some health questions, which I'm sure you can understand. I can't do that over the phone. So I'm going to be dispatched out in your area. On Tuesday, I can see you between about 6 and 6:30 or 7:30 and 8, which works best for you. So now you transition into telling them, I'd love to do it. You heard them, right? You heard that. That's good. That's a good start.
Yeah,
you heard that, and then you transition into everything else. Talk about, just say, hey, I'm busy. Talk about the quick set appointment. Hey, I'm busy, call me back type thing.
Right. So you'll get that a lot. And as long as you as the the agent on the line, you understand that no one's too busy because they answered the phone. This is that mindset. You have to get into the right mindset before you dial. No one's too busy. So you say, perfect. That's a purpose. I am a big purpose of my call, right?
Yeah, me too.
Matt and I are the same human. So I learned from the best. So the purpose of my call, no problem. What time are you typically home from work? Or what time are you and your spouse typically home from work? 5 p.m. Perfect. I'm dispatching you out in your area on Tuesday. I'm going to bring by your information at 7 o'clock. Do me a favor. I need you to write this down. And you just keep going back to the same thing because people, and that's a quick set appointment. Now, if I set aside and they're like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Most of the time what will happen is that they'll go, oh, wait a minute. You're coming by and then you've bought more time. And that's what you wanted to set a solid appointment. Yep, exactly. Yep, I'm going to be dispatching your area, delivering your information to 10 other families. It takes me about 15 minutes. As long as you don't have a ton of questions, I'll get you the information. I'll be on my way. Now, what time do we say? 7 p.m. So you just go right back into it. And a quick set, I'm a huge fan of quick sets because, again, people don't want to stay on the phone a lot, but you have to recognize that they answered. Yeah. And you may never get another chance to talk to that person. So you've got to get that appointment set when they're on the phone.
I think it's crucial to understand you only get one shot on
Yes.
the phone. So that's why quick setting appointments is so good. And the other thing you got to realize about quick setting appointments is, hey, this is in regards to paying off your mortgage if you die. This is in regards to the online request for life insurance. This is in regards to your final expense and burial costs. You have to tell them, because they're trying to get off the phone. Oh, perfect. That's actually the purpose of my phone call. This is in regards to the final expense and burial costs you did online. What time are you and your wife generally home from work? Oh, we don't work. Great. You're retired? Yeah, we're home during the day. Okay, I can get you this information. It takes me 10 or 15 minutes. I'll see you between about 3 and 4, on Tuesday. Give yourself a little bit of time because you want to be able to not have to, call them to when you go to the appointments or anything like that. You want to make sure that you just have a broad area in your calendar so you're not scrambling and moving all over the place as well. I think that's important. Talk about some other objections that you can think of that we all get.
So I think, time obviously is a big one. I think not interested is one of the, especially when you're doing a large volume of leads and a large volume of dialing. Not interested is probably something that you're going to hear a lot. So people tend to go almost aggressive on this one.
Yeah.
I think Matt has a really good way of overcoming the not interested one.
Yeah.
So how do you handle that one?
Yeah. Were you not interested because the price was too high or because you could not qualify? See what I'm saying? So now great. Actually, that's the purpose of my phone call. I'm assuming the price was too high or you couldn't qualify. Which was it for you? Actually, we already took care of it. Okay, great. That's actually the purpose of my calls. See, I could just translate.
Purpose of my call.
Already took care of it. Now we can cover another objection. Already took care of it. Great. That's the purpose of my phone call. Right now with the new programs that came out, we can really increase your coverage and decrease your premium. So I'm going to be out in your area. If you could just have your policy out when I get there, it'll take about 10 or 15 minutes to do so. I'm sure you filled out multiple forms to make sure you got the best offer. Is that correct? One of my favorite words for already taking care of it. Like, I'm assuming you took the time to fill out multiple forms to get the best offer. Is that true? Yes. Great. With how the premiums have changed here in 2020, we can help you increase your coverage or decrease the price. Just have the policy out. It takes me 10 or 15 minutes to get you this information and improve your existing coverage. I'll see you Tuesday between 3 and 4. It's all about just transitioning into setting that appointment and that time every single time. Any other objections that you can think of that are, those are the prevalent ones, already took care of it.
So one of the biggest
busy.
ones, yep. And here's the thing, like if you're listening, you're hearing us match the objection with the objection. Mm-hmm. So time, I know, I totally understand. I'm super busy as well. What time are you guys typically home? It was time. Time was their objection. Time is your solution. Same thing with I'm not interested. Perfect. What were you not interested in? Okay, perfect. And then you keep moving back into what they're saying. That's the thing, like you have to listen. You can't just, again, railroad people. You have to kind of hear what the objection is and then move around in it. One of the other ones that we hear a lot is going to be, I didn't fill that out. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably right now, especially we're working a lot of, online or internet leads where you're going to have people that are going to say, I didn't fill that out. I like that objection, honestly, because the information's correct. Their name's correct. Their phone number's correct. Nobody falls down on a keyboard and accidentally puts in all of their information. That doesn't happen, right? So when you're talking to people, I think the biggest thing is we have to learn to be empathetic. You have to put yourself in that client's position on the phone. So you have to start saying, look, I totally understand. I know you think I'm a telemarketer. That's not what I'm doing. There's no list that you got put on. You actually, somebody who cares about you or you yourself have put in your information and asked us to give you a call about life insurance that is regulated through our state. My job is to get you that information. I don't have a ton of time. And as long as you don't have a ton of questions, this is going to take about 10 minutes. And then you just keep going. So that's the thing. If you stop and you try to combat that, well, could it have been someone in the house next to you? Right? That doesn't happen. People fill out information or fill out forms for information because they want it. They just don't like how you're delivering it.
Yep.
So you have to put yourself in their shoes. You have to be empathetic and say, look, I totally understand. I get a ton of telemarketing calls every day myself. Just to make it clear, I am licensed through your state to deliver this information. Of course, telemarketers are typically in another country. So my job is very different. And, so you just put yourself into it, make it more personal so they're not feeling as though you're, just like everybody else. You have to be the person they're going to sit with.
Absolutely. So to recap for you guys, understand those 4 phases of a phone call, of your appointment setting. Make sure that you have your introduction, your verifying information, your selling time, then the tie down, and then understand how to pivot once you get that objection, and always, understand the motive is price. A lot of times when you get somebody that, I didn't fill that out, it probably, like Tiffany said, it could have been their spouse or daughter, son, something like that in the household. So making sure you identify the right person on the phone up front too is, make sure you ask for the person on the lead that filled it out, because that's important too. Otherwise, you'll probably get a lot of that. So some of that's big. The other final closing thoughts is I leave voicemail. And
Always.
I've set 3 appointments more a week by leaving voicemails in my career. Everybody asks what the voicemail is. I'm specific. Hey, this is in regards to your final expense burial costs. You requested this information. My phone number is here. If you want to be vague and you want to twist it to your words, do you. I don't care. My point is I leave voicemail, and I've set more appointments than ever, especially when we're talking about social media and internet leads. Leave voicemail right away, every single time, because those leads get called, and they need to be called quick. Direct mail is not as quick, although you need to call them quick, but they're not as urgent as a on-time, like instant internet lead or social media lead. And then the final thing is make sure that you do *67 and block your number, because I'll call 3 or 4 times in a row, and then I'll do *67, and then people will pick up the unknown number. And that's a very effective way to set maybe 3 more appointments a week. So if you're not utilizing voicemail and *67 in what you're doing as far as phoning, then you're not going to have maximum results. And what we want is maximum results so you can get in front of enough people.
Another thing another big question we get when it comes to phoning is, what time is the best time to dial? Anytime is the best time to dial.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter. I know that it seems like there's some magic, key to all of this, and it's just not. There's just not. Pick up the phone, stay focused, set your time frame for your dialing or your goal, your appointment goal, whatever it is, but don't get up. Don't leave. If you got to go and get a drink of water or do something like that, that's fine. Yeah. But anytime you decide is your time to dial, commit to it. That's the biggest thing I see agents that'll, they're struggling on the phone. They're getting, a lot of no's, and then they're like, well, I'm going to go do this and then I'll come back, but you don't come back. So really, make yourself an employee on dial day more than anything else. Just know how many hours or how many appointments you have to put in to get where you need to go for your appointments. And then again, the more you dial, the better you get.
I tell you one thing. In the first 8 years of my career, Tiffany, 250 dials was always the minimum that I'd make. And if you can't make 250 dials, it means you don't have enough leads, number one. So that's a different scenario. But 250 dials, and a dial is simply make a phone call. It doesn't matter if they pick up or not. It's just counting a phone call. So I do, hash marks 1, 2, 3, 4, hash 5. I do 5 dials, and then I'd move on. 250 dials should be a minimum every single week, but it is a recipe for success as well. So understand what winners do too is when they set the amount of appointments they think that they've achieved. So, hey, I set 15 appointments my next 2 days. I've arrived. I'm good. Do yourself a favor. Dial another hour, because somebody's going to no-show. And when we think that we've arrived, that's usually when we probably should do more. So do things that make you uncomfortable like that, and you'll notice your business propels dramatically. And what's crazy too is if you dial a 4-hour block and then you dial 1 more hour that you didn't plan on maybe doing, that's when the magic happens. All of a sudden everybody picks up in the extra hour, but maybe they didn't pick up in the first 4 hours. And that's great input and advice as far as, if it takes all day on a Monday, on a Thursday, to dial to get your appointments, and that's what it takes. If it took you 2 hours or 4 hours, that's what it takes. And the good news is the more you do it, the better you'll be, and the less time you'll be. But in the beginning, you might be dealing with older leads, and you need more time on the phone. Whatever it takes is the attitude that you must have, and you cannot wing it. That is my main message. You have to be equipped. It should be embedded in your brain, no matter what objection you have, no matter what type of lead you call, that it's easy to set appointments for me. They filled out that information. You're not a telemarketer. It's a simple deal. So stick with the process and the plan, and I think you'll have maximum results. So thanks for your time.
Hi guys, I'm Jessica Powers with Family First Life Northwest. I'm here with Brad Allen, and we're going to talk about underwriting and product placement. So as a new agent, what I see is that most of you try to spend about 80% of your time trying to figure out what to write and why to write it. Which carrier do I go through? What's this going to be? Who's going to say yes? Who's going to say no? In reality, underwriting is probably about 5% of our business, right? So it's really important to have a simple understanding of what steps that you can take to prepare yourself, so that way when you're out in the field, you can feel like the professional that you are and feel confident. So a couple of those are going to be having underwriting grids, the cheat sheet grids with you that are on the mentor site. There's a lot of different places that they're located. Yeah. This gives you quick access to be able to look through based off of what health complications your client has had and which carrier is going to be the best fit for them.
Right.
There's also going to be height, weight, build charts, making sure that you're getting your client approved in a policy based off of their build chart. It's very important to familiarize yourself with just the simple, maybe the top 10 prescriptions that are prescribed, knowing how to say them simply just so we know, okay, metoprolol or losartan or lisinopril, that way we can have it smoothly run off of our tongue. Also, if you come across a prescription that you don't know, it's okay. There's what's WebMD or Google. You can go ahead and just take a look to see, what is this prescription prescribed for? Is it really for sleep, or is it really for something else, right? Sure. Having those few tips and tricks on you, understanding and familiarizing yourself with the knockout questions, because what you can do is look at the questions of your apps, right? Americo being our number one, right? Looking at those few questions. Can you answer no to all those questions? Are there any health concerns that are on that grid that are going to deter us from going Americo? What route are we going to go, right? What I find is, if we keep this simple, right? We are a broker, we've got several carriers, but if we keep it to simple, a few carriers, and have a sequence that we go through, we can go into the home confident and calm, knowing that we're going to know what best way to go ahead, what we're going to place our clients with, right?
Sure.
We want to make sure that we have the phone numbers of a couple people that can be our phone a friend, right? The person who's hired you, another agent, where we can use to have that guidance, that mentorship, right? And setting it up in the home at that time, right? I'm going to go ahead and reach out to my senior underwriter, just get a second opinion, make sure that they're on the same path that I am. I know where I want to go, but I want to make sure. Even if you don't, it's okay, right? But expressing that confidence.
Exactly.
Now, we've gone through, we ask the questions, we take a look at our grid, we phone a friend, etc. But Brad, when you're a new agent, or you're talking to your new agents, how do you advise them as far as for product placement? Are there any pro tips that you can give, things that can help us new agents go in the field feeling confident?
Yeah, so what I tell my new agents is, people may want what they want, but it's our job to get them insured. So sometimes it's different between what someone can qualify for or can afford versus what it is that they think that they would want.
Right.
So you're right. You're absolutely right. 5% of the business is the product, because our products are pretty simple. I mean, there's term, there's whole life, there's universal, and there's some flavors of, adding stuff, not adding stuff. But there's always a process of going through of, you want to find out immediately in the house what they can qualify for. That's why we always say Americo first, because there's an instant feedback. Getting back in a house is not the easiest thing. I mean, when you're first starting, I've heard it countless times. I used to say it. Oh, I'm going back in that house. You're probably not. Chances are you will not be going back in that house. So it's critical that you find out what somebody actually can qualify for when you're there. So with the Americo products, whether it be whole life or term, we find out instantly, and then to Jessica, your point, we can then pivot to something else based on advice from someone else on the team or a guide or something like that. That's what I would do.
Perfect. Now, Brad, do you have a couple pro tips or things like that are commonalities, right? Because when we're dealing with the public, with people, there's not a lot of surprises, right? Especially when you're dealing with the senior, the final expense market. There's very specific commonalities that we can expect as far as for our health stuff.
Yes.
Is there any tips that you can give as a new agent of just little, let me have these little notes for myself. That way, when I'm sitting down with Mary, I can think, oh, right, Brad and Jessica told me this, and this really this is where I'm going to go.
Sure. So I think that your tip on having the paper apps with them when they start is a huge thing for two reasons. Number one, maybe they don't have internet access, and then they're going to have to try to get back in that house because they can't get out to the e-app to write the e-app. That happens. Right? The other, and probably the more common, is they don't know what the knockout questions are, and they're right there. So for the final expense, I think it's really when you do the financial inventory and you find out what do you make, what do you spend, what's left over, I ask the question every time, are you a saver? Because I want to find out, A, can they afford it? And if they're a saver, then they're planful and they want to either have income replacement or something left behind for someone else. And I'm getting an idea about budget. So when I'm placing something, I'm not placing them into a product that they can't afford. So there's really two components. Can you qualify? So you want to find out immediately, and can you continue to make the payments? Because it makes no sense for somebody to make a payment or two and then cancel. So I always tell people, we're going to keep this somewhere between 10 and 15% of your discretionary income. What do you make? What do you spend? What's left over? What's 10 to 15% of that number? That's what I see everyone else do. Let's find out if they will take you, then we know what your number will be. Because if they don't take you, it's not your number. And that overcomes the objection of the think about it, because we hear, I'll think about it, great, now I know the price, and I'll call you. Well, they probably won't call us, and it's not even their number until it is. But if you say, oh, great, I think you're going to qualify, and look, you've got all this discretionary income, just because people have discretionary doesn't mean they want to spend it. So when it comes to placement, finding something that's in their range they qualify for, huge.
Perfect. All right, that's awesome. I think that's great information, because underwriting isn't just, what health questions, right? We're the fact finders. We're figuring out what our client can qualify for, what they can afford, because our goal is to make sure that we put our clients in what's going to help them in the long run, right? And help their families.
Absolutely.
So I hope you guys took a lot out of this. Again, make sure you've got the underwriting grids. Make sure that you act now. Don't hold off on getting on the phones, getting your leads, getting in the home and going on your appointments, because with the tools that are accessible to you, you will be successful. You're going to learn along this way, and you have a lot of support that's going to help you get where you're trying to go.
Hi everybody, my name is Matt Smith. I'm here with Jessica Powers with Family First Life Northwest, and we're going to talk to you about some tools and resources that are extremely important for you to get started with Family First Life Northwest, and just getting a broad understanding on how to utilize these throughout your career here with Family First Life. Jessica, I'll turn it to you to talk about. You've been a great proponent to these types of tools. I know your agents use them, you use them. So talk to us about the mentor site and kind of those steps that we talk about and how easy it is to get plugged in.
Okay, perfect. So as a new agent, I can't stress enough how important it is for step one, which is getting plugged into the team. Getting plugged into the team means you're in this business by yourself, but not for yourself. So getting plugged in to our team communication platform, Telegram, if some of your part of your team uses Slack, whatever means for you, that way you have access to a wealth of knowledge and help. This is where you're also going to sign up for the Family First Life newsletters, things like that. They're going to help you to stay connected and plugged in, so that way you don't miss a beat when it comes to training and resources. Step two, if you're not licensed yet, is going to help you walk you through how to become licensed, what you're going to need, what your requirements are going to be. Everything that you need to know, so that way you can go from knowing about this opportunity with Family First Life all the way to getting licensed, right? Step three is contracted, right? So if you're going through this orientation, new agent, you're already in the process of going through this, right? So we're gonna get contracted. You're gonna get contracted with each individual agent. This is gonna give you the steps that are gonna be required, that way you don't miss a beat. We have a lot of carriers that we go through, but there's only really a couple that you really need to worry about. So my advice to you is don't get caught up waiting for every single contract to come through. Get Americo, get a couple more just in the back pocket, but get out in the field as soon as possible so you can start getting forward to these next steps. Step four is your phone training and booking appointments. The phones are 80% of what we do. This step is going to be such an important step for you. Print out the phone scripts. Memorize the phone scripts. Memorize the objections. The key to success and being a professional in this business is understanding what to say on the phone. So that way when a client answers and says, I'm not interested, it doesn't throw you off, right? Understanding that in order to be successful, you need to treat yourself like a professional and learn and utilize the tools that are available to you. Step 5 is prepping for appointments. Now, once you've gotten good on the phones and you can overcome the objections, we're going to make sure that you know what to do in the home. We're going to have the tools that are accessible to you, the tools of the trade, the financial inventory, the quick grids, the underwriting grids, the cheat sheets for you so you know what to write, what to do in the home, so that way you can feel confident and know that you've got the resources that you need. Next is going to be your in-home presentation. What do you say in the home? What do you do? How do what do you do when you're closed? What do you do if the client tells you that they need to think about it? All those resources are going to be available for you to use. Number 7 is completing applications. 98% of the time is going to be e-applications. What does that look like? Can you navigate through the site? Do you know where the e-applications are? Making sure that you know what tools to use and where to go to. And step 8 is managing your business. Once you get your policies on the books, how do you retain your clients? How do you keep a client for life? How do you manage that, avoid chargebacks, and what do you do next as far as for client retention, thank you cards, etc. So again, those are the 8 steps. I highly advise you using this as your resource and your guides, and don't miss a step.
Absolutely. The final things is you got some links on your mentor site, like top 10 agent videos, scripts, like she just mentioned, quoting tools from all the carriers, which are important to be if you want one place to be able to quote your business, as well as leads and final expense and mortgage health underwriting guidelines. So there's a search tab that if you have issues or anything, you can just type them in and follow it. Just make sure to click on the FFLNWmentor.com and follow those. And the one thing I would say is, as far as being a student of the game, it's very important for you to do all the things that Jessica just mentioned. However, make sure that you're doing it in off hours, like either really early in the morning or late at night. Keep your income producing activities to those scenarios during the day in the peak hours, and do these utilize these tools when you're not on the phone or sitting in front of clients, which is what we want you doing the vast majority of the time. So thanks for plugging in. Thanks, Jessica, and look forward to your success.
Hey everyone, my name is John Gavin. I'm here with Tiffany Gruenberg, and today we're going to be covering final expense sales and why they're so important. So thanks for getting with me here, Tiffany. Final expense sales, they should be a staple of every agent's business, and there's several reasons why. First and foremost, the leads are in abundance. We've got, anyone between the age of 50 and 85 qualifies. They just have to have some sort of social media. Facebook is probably the most popular, but the leads are in abundance. And for new agents coming on board, and all agents as a matter of fact, it's a great way to fill up your afternoons, because if you're running life leads, a lot of those people are working. They're going to be tied up in the days, more available in the evenings. And final expense leads are a great way to fill your schedule during the afternoons when other people might be working. But to me, when you have new agents starting off, I think it's the best way. It should be your first appointment to get to, because we have so many people that are coming from backgrounds that are not involved in sales. And so going to somebody's house and presenting something to them is going to be something a little bit foreign to them. They're going to be swimming a little bit. And to make that, and the final expense sale, I believe, is the easiest one out there, because there's no confusion on why you're there.
Exactly.
We all know that we're all going to die at some point.
Yep.
And there's costs associated with that. And so our final expense leads are just people who are reaching out to get information on eliminating that financial burden on others and taking those costs through small incremental payments. And so the key to final expense and the key to all of your first appointments is developing some sort of structure in the home. So I know Tiffany's had great success with her final expense sales. So Tiffany, what are some of the things that you focus on once you get into the home in your final expense sales?
Well, I think, John pointing out just simple facts about the final expense sales and in your business was key, because you can see those clients at times where, again, you can't see just a traditional life insurance sale because a lot of them are retired. Yep. So you have more availability there. And another key factor is that you're working with people that have a much more fixed budget typically when you're working with final expense. So most of the time, as long as you're understanding that your clients need structure, they want to know, like you said, they do know why you're coming. So just giving them a little bit more structure and explaining to them how the process works is typically how I run a final expense appointment. So when I go in to sit down with a family, I'll typically, introduce myself, go through, find a commonality. I think that's really important. If you sit down, pull out your financial inventory and just start staring them and drilling them with questions, that's a problem. So you typically, I find myself warming up through the financial inventory, find that commonality right away. And then I like to tell them exactly how this is going to work. I'll say, John and Mary, thank you so much for meeting with me today. I want you to know we do have a couple of goals, and those are to make sure that, when one or both of you pass, and I typically say when first, and then I correct myself, to make sure that they heard it. It's a when, not an if. Yeah. So I make sure that they understand it's a when you pass, not an if, because, if all of us had expirations on our foreheads, this would be a lot easier. Unfortunately, we don't. They laugh. It's a good time. And then I continue down that path and say, we want to make sure that we find something, number one, that fits your budget. That is the number one goal of everyone at their kitchen table, is they want to make sure they can afford it. Okay. Second, I want to make sure we find something that you're comfortable with and that you understand how it works. So making sure that they know if it's day one coverage, it starts day one. If it's a graded benefit that's going to take some time for them to get the full benefit, they understand that. Also, then the last thing I say, and then my last goal for you is to find something you actually qualify for, because there's no use in us talking about something you can't have. Does that make sense? Yeah. And then you've given them the structure on what your goals are. Then I say, here's how this process works. We're going to spend about 5 minutes going over your current financial situation. I need to know what happens when you don't walk through the door, John. And I need to know what happens, Mary, when you don't walk through the door. Who picks up those pieces? Then I talk about, we're going to spend 5 minutes going over your health, because at the end of the day, your health is what buys your insurance, not your bank account. Mm-hmm. This is literally what I say, right? I'm not making these things up. This is what I say in a home.
That's awesome.
And then lastly, I'll say, we're gonna go ahead and submit a request for benefits up to whichever carrier you choose, giving them power and them control. They like that. And then we're going to see what you qualify for. Hopefully today I'm going to be able to leave with you having a benefit in your hand. And then I move on from there. The emotionality and things like that is something that you build after you set up that structure. And I think that that's something, John, that I've heard you do really well. So once you've given them the structure, you tell them how the process and the appointment's going to go. How do you make it more real for them?
I think bringing to light the fact that, everyone knows they're going to die. Okay. Everyone knows there's costs associated with that. One of the things I always do is I don't ask them who the beneficiary is, because there's no beneficiary unless there's coverage in place. Okay. Without coverage is a burden. And so I always ask the client, who is it that's going to be financially responsible for paying for your final arrangements? And so that kind of brings it to light, the fact that they think in their head, okay, so they have to name a person they're gonna leave this burden to if they don't get coverage in place. And typically when we meet with a lot of single people, it's their son or daughter. And I tend to drill down a little bit deeper into that. Okay, it's your son Steve, that's great. Is Steve local, or does he have to fly in? If he is local, do you get grandkids you get to see? So I try to paint a little picture of what Steve's life is like. And would he have that $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 sitting in the bank that he can just take care of mom's final expenses if he had to? Typically, it's no. Typically they don't have it. And so I get assumptive and I get complimentary, and I tell them, I think this is awesome that you're putting this in place, and you're going to take care of your final arrangements through small incremental payments, so Steve doesn't have to make that big one. Does that make sense? And I do a lot of things that are similar to you. Like I noticed that when you go into the house and you set it up, you're doing a lot of little trial closes. Does that make sense? You're getting people nodding their head, yes. Absolutely. So you're talking to people, and eliminating that financial burden on their loved ones. Does that make sense? And they're nodding, and they're getting ready to buy. And with the final expense sale, you can be really assumptive because there's no guesswork while you're there. They've set the appointment. They filled out the information, typically online to get information. They set the appointment with you. You came over, and then the rest of it is just a matter of finding something that fits within their needs, their budget, and satisfy their needs. And so that's why I think it's such a great option for new agents to get out there, because your first couple of appointments, you're sort of swimming out there. And, this kind of takes the guesswork out of it and makes it, pretty easy. And you can bring that emotionality out of it by identifying who is it that this financial burden is going to be left to if you don't have the coverage in place.
Exactly. And I think what happens a lot of times with new agents when they go in and they want to start with a final expense sale, the biggest thing that we found is it really does just work out into helping people understand what that picture looks like. And that's what John was just saying. Yep. You paint that picture. You use the terms burden. Right? Because it's so much easier, and I'll say this, John and Mary, it's so much easier to write a $24 a month check than it is to write a $2,500 check or a $5,000 check. Yeah. Wouldn't you agree? Again, using those trial closes all the way through the process. What we find with new agents, and John, you and I have had conversations about our new agents with this, is there's not a lot of good questions asked. Yep. We tend to go in and want to get the nitty gritty and get the prescriptions and things like that. However, the reality of a final expense appointment is they already know they need life insurance. Yes. They need a burial plan. So you're kind of beating the dead horse when you just go down the financial inventory and you don't start asking questions like that, because people want to be confident that they've made a good decision. The final expense, these are people that have been around for a minute, yes, right? Yes. They've been, they're a little jaded about you being there. Insurance sometimes has a negative connotation for them. And you have to be the person that does the best job explaining to them what they do qualify for. Mm-hmm. You have to be very open and honest with them and ask their permission to do so. Do I have your permission to be completely honest with you? Or do I have your permission to talk to you like you were my parents? Yep. I use that one all the time. And because they don't know what they qualify for. And a lot of people were like, well, I want $50,000, but I want to be cremated. Yeah. Right? And why do you need that? Yeah. And I typically like to give 3 choices. I know you do that too, right? 3 different choices, but only one carrier. Yeah. Right? Definitely. Can you explain why we do that?
Because we do the shopping for you, and we're going to show you their best option. And the last thing we want to do is confuse people, because confused people do nothing. So it's okay to fluctuate between the coverage amount and finding the right price point for you, but you definitely don't want to cross over and show different products or different carriers, because then they have something to think about. Mm-hmm. Okay? And the last thing we want to do is leave a house with somebody that wants to think about something, because we all know, and I've said this in plenty of houses, if I leave here today, we're never going to see each other again. Okay?
100%. That is 100% fact.
Yeah. And the one thing about final expense sales is that we're dealing with seniors, and there's a sense of mortality, because they're getting up there, 20, 30 years old. They don't think they're ever going to die. 60, 70-year-old, they know they're going to. Yep. We just don't know when. And so there is a little bit more of a sense of urgency. You can take that off the table if you want to think about it, because, if you do leave, they don't have that coverage in place, then they do ultimately leave that burden to somebody else. But the sales that we do for final expense tend to be, mid-price sales that are affordable, because like you said, they have that fixed budget, they know what's coming in every month, and they stay on the books. The persistency, the amount of policies that actually stays on the books is pretty high, because they know if they cancel it, then that burden gets left to their loved ones. This is their last chance. So, it's a great tool to have. Final expense, like I said, is going to be a great tool to have for every agent out there. And do you want to recap what we just talked about?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing about final expense, it's just really simple. And that's the thing. It's so simple. We try to convolute it when we first start, and I think that's as a brand new agent, guys, this is that 90-day boot camp, right? We want you to get great in 90 days. Final expense is how to do it. You focus on the fact that these are instant leads. You can get them right away. These are people expecting to hear from you. They're looking for a benefit because they know they are closer to, heading on upstairs or wherever, whichever direction they're going, right? So it's just part of this business that creates the most capital the most quickly in your business as well, because you're going to place a product, sit down with a family who knows they need life insurance, right? You're not going to sit down with a 75-year-old who thinks it's free because they've been there, right? Nothing's free. And you're going to be able to just work with them to find the benefit that makes sense, the one that they qualify for, and then the one that actually gets placed.
Yep.
Right? So it just puts you in the best position to win when you're running final expense appointments. Again, natural close, everything just works out. And at that point, you're literally just finding all of the things that make sense for them. So I think that's what we have for final expense.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Matt Smith here with Family First Life Northwest, and we're going to cover in this video the complete in-home process. We'll cover types of buyers. We'll talk about the 5 things you need to get every single sale in the house. And it's an honor to have John Gavin, Brad Allen, Jessica Powers, and Tiffany Grunberg here with us today. All of them are either running multi-million-dollar agencies or have done over $1 million worth of production in their lifetime for career sales. Brad is the second person in the history of Family First Life to do $1 million on his own pen. So we got a lot of good information that we want to share with all of you in this quick video. So one of the things that I think you need to understand when you're starting to meet with any sort of clients is you need to understand you're going to meet 4 types of buyers. So the first one you're going to meet is someone that's going to be very practical, where they're going to do a lot of shopping. Generally, these are millennials that you'll meet. You'll see people they're a little more price sensitive. And the key component that we always want in these types of sales is we want a lot of peer pressure and say, everybody with your specific scenario does this. Everybody that buys their first house buys this type of coverage. I think it will eliminate a lot of the shopping. The other thing as far as eliminating a lot of the shopping and those practical buyers is making sure that you tell them, I'm a broker, not a captive agent. I've got 27 different A-rated insurance companies that I represent. You can't mark up insurance. It's all regulated by the state. So we're going to be able to find the best price and program for your specific scenario. So you have a practical buyer. The next one, you have people of action. So people of action, a lot of times newer agents have a difficult time with people of action. You just don't build rapport with people of action. You still set the table, which we'll talk about here next, but you don't build rapport and you just get right to the point with people of action. The next one is you're going to meet people that are social. These are the ones that are most dangerous, simply because you could spend an hour and a half in the house and not get anywhere and become their friend and never get the sale. So people that are social, it's difficult because you want to have control in the house. Having control is how you're going to capture sales every single time. The last type of buyer is people that are emotional. Easiest type of buyer to sell as long as you keep them on track. 95% of decision making is based off emotion, but if you channel it in the right way, you'll capture every single one. So John, with your experience, mindset, things like that, when you're going into the appointment, what kind of advice can you give everybody?
I think the one thing, doesn't matter what kind of buyer you're meeting with, I think the most important thing, that everything starts from the time that you pull up. Okay, you have to have an air of confidence when you pull up and understand the fact that regardless of who you're meeting with, you're going to be the only licensed agent in the room. And that doesn't even matter if it's your first appointment or your 1000th appointment. If you're not the only licensed agent in the room, it's a little weird, because why did they write their own insurance then? Okay, they're terrible at what they did. So knowing that, I know a lot of new agents go out there and they're scared and they're nervous and it's all brand new to them and they're swimming in their own anxiety. But if you understand that you're actually there to help them out, we have a system that's put in place that we only reach out to people who have inquired about life insurance in some format or another, whether it's through the internet, whether it's through social media of some sort. These people have initiated the contact, so you should have that confidence coming in there, because you're there to help them with a problem that they've already identified, and ask for that help. And so that kind of helps people with the level of confidence they need to go into the house, regardless of what type of buyer they're with. And so you want to have structure as well too. Structure early on really helps you stay on track, because you don't want to run into that social person and be there for an hour and a half and 2 hours, and blow your whole day of appointments and be late. And structure is just basically just doing the same thing every time you go out. And so from the time I pulled up, I always pull up and go to the house, knock on the door. They answer the door, say, hey Bob, I'm John here for a 12 o'clock appointment, and do the same things. From the time you walk in the door, you have to take ownership of everything you do, because it might be their house, their apartment, whatever, but it's your appointment. And so, I always kick my shoes off, introduce myself, and then you have to create that environment that you want to make sure that there are no distractions. If you've got kids, grandkids, or adults watching TV, I always tell them to turn the TV off, please. Direct people over to a table, because that's where business is done. They might be more comfortable in the living room, say, we can just sit over here, and say, that's okay, I actually need to take a little bit of notes, and so the table will work out a lot better. Even if they've got some stuff on the table, which happens quite often, you got time, so go ahead and clear that off, because that's where we're going to sit, okay? If the lighting's not right, ask them to turn the light on. So you have to take ownership of the appointment. So you start with that, and there's that automatic respect for you. And then to set the table and the expectation of what's going to happen, because these people, they inquire online to get life insurance. Somebody calls them up, somebody sets an appointment, somebody comes over. They have no idea what's going to take place. So they might be guarded because they don't want to be sold anything. And so the great way to bring that guard down is I would tell people right in the beginning that this whole process is really simple. I'm going to get about 3 to 5 minutes worth of information from you. Some of it's going to be health related, others going to be financial. And then I'm going to go over a couple different options of what you qualify for and see if we have something that fits your needs and your budget. Does that make sense? They say yes. So now they know that I'm going to ask them some questions. Some of it's going to be health related, others going to be financial. So I don't ever get any pushback when I start asking about the income, about the assets and that sort of thing, because I already told them up front that I was going to ask those questions. And then we go through, do the finance inventory and some of the things you guys are going to cover. But if you start with that structure and set that table, you'll have less pushback when you start asking those questions.
Absolutely. Brad, can you share with us as far as when you're setting the table, what to do, what that looks like for everyone?
Sure. Yeah. So when I'm sitting with folks in the house, and like John was saying, structure's really important. I do the same thing in every house, really, regardless of the type of appointment it is. I build the rapport. Regardless of where I'm at, I build some rapport. I try to find some common ground, so I run in the neighborhood that I grew up in. And so it's pretty easy to say, I remember when this used to be this or that. So I try to find some touchstone that kind of just lowers the stress, because, it's like, why are you here? What do you want from me? And so I try to just say, nope. I know this place. I'm from here. We swim in the same pool. I'm here to help. I'm responding to your request. And so I think having some empathy and meeting them where they are is really important. I've had people tell me that I have a calming effect on them, which that's the intent, right? Is I'm here to help. And I've said these words: I have a bifurcated fiduciary responsibility. I can't say something the carriers can't follow through on, and I can't put you in a place that doesn't leave you better off. If we can't do those two things, this will be a very quick appointment. Let's see what we got. Okay, then we go through the financial inventory, and I try to kind of decipher what type of person I'm sitting in front of. Are they a saver? Do they really care about their family? Are they trying to build up some cash value? Is this really something that they have to do, they want to do? Where's the urgency? And then the financial inventory will tell me really kind of what we're working with from a health and a budget standpoint. But having, I think, that empathy and relating to people and meeting them where they're at, that I'm not here to try to talk you into something. It's kind of risk management. You're managing risk, and so is the carrier. So it's my job to solve a problem from a risk management standpoint, and it should take a couple of minutes. We'll know in a couple of minutes if I'm going to be able to put you in a better place. If I can, fantastic, because as the field underwriter, I have everything I need right here. As soon as we get done with this piece of the program, we'll know highly likely what it is you're going to be able to qualify for. But first things first, let's get some information, and then we go into financial inventory.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think it's so important, as John and Brad has said, is setting that structure and that expectation right up front, right? This is what I'm here for. This is what I'm going to do. and making sure to say that. And a lot of times what I like to do is do just kind of a soft close of, does that sound good to you? This is what we're going to do. I've already established that, so that way when it comes the time to ask those personal questions, that there's no pushback, right? So what I'll do, my first thing first is, find out questions as far as, who's going to be the financial burden, right? Who are we trying to protect? I know that this is going to be put coverage on place for you, but who are we trying to protect? Who do you not want that financial burden to go to, right? And dig into more questions on them, right? I want to know their names. I don't want to know that it's a daughter. I want to know her name is Sally. I want to know how old she is. I want to know where she lives. I want to know what it's going to be like for her when you don't come home, right? What does that look like? I'm going to dig into ask questions about, this is where, it's so important. We feel sometimes as a new agent that we get uncomfortable to ask financial questions, but this is you have the license to be there. You're right. You're there for a reason. So if we get that proper mindset, like John said, about that, I'm asking these questions because I'm trying to better the situation. How can you give a professional recommendation if you don't have all the tools needed, right? So this is where you ask those questions. How much income are you bringing in? How much is your wife bringing in? How much money do you have going on? Are you supporting anybody? What do you have that acts like life insurance that's transferable upon your death? Any 401ks, anything like that? Any significant savings? If somebody gives you pushback, then you didn't set up your intro properly. You didn't set up the proper expectations of why you're there, right? At that point, you can go back and say, as I mentioned to you, I want to make sure that I can give you a professional recommendation, and I would be doing you an injustice if I didn't know everything that was going on. Yep. When you get into the health, I want to know not only what they have, but I also want to know what is their family history like, right? It's so important to understand what happened. What happened to your mom? What happened to your dad or your uncle? And validate when you find things. Remember, the intro is you're setting it up. The middle with your financial inventory is your fact finding, right? So you can make comments, make statements of, I can see why I'm here. It makes sense why you're so concerned about this. I can understand this is exactly why I'm here. Setting that stage, empathizing with them, and giving those, the soft closes of, so I can see, is that why you filled this out? Yes. Okay, great. I can see that since your mom passed away and your aunt passed away from cancer, I can see that this would probably be something that's concerning to you. Is that right? Yes. So going through, asking the questions, we've built up the why, right? We've built up the reason as to why you're there. Now that we've asked the health questions, we have the financials. Now we have what we need to help to get to the point of, what do we put in place? What is going to do? If this is a mortgage, we figured out the equity, right? When I go through, I want to backtrack for a second. So if we're on a mortgage protection, I want to find out what their payment is. I want to find out if they're making extra payments on their mortgage. I want to find out what their plan is. If they're with a spouse, I want to find out what the husband's plan is and what the wife's plan is. Is the wife going to sell the house? Is the husband going to stay in it? What does that look like, right? And then I want to find out equity, right? If they've got $1,000 mortgage and they've got $300,000 of equity, I circle the equity really big, and I say, this is exactly why I'm here, right? We've got $300,000 of equity. We want to make sure that when something happens to Bob, that Mary has access to that equity. Equity is like a bag of money in the basement, and we want to make sure that all this time, the 20 years that you've been here in this house, or the 10 years you've been here in the house, that you're going to make sure you protect that, right? That's your legacy. And they go, yes, completely. So now you've built up that value, you can go over to the close.
Exactly. And the thing about everything that all of us are bringing you to is a natural close in this business. So you don't have to beat up your clients. You don't have to, ABC, always be closing. You just simply have to do a good job asking good questions. That's what your close is in this business. It's not about, we always say he who asks the most questions wins. And that's a reality. So while you're going through all of this, it's simply if you're in your first 90 days, the expectation is that you've done all these things. You've introduced yourself. You've given them structure. You're the expert in the house. You've built up the why, and then it's time to ask for the business. This is something I think a ton of agents just never do, is they don't ask for the business. And you really have to do that. I think the best way to do that is simply just saying, okay, guys, Now, again, I do know why I'm here. It's very clear. We have a huge differentiation in income should one of you pass away, and we want to make sure, again, that equity doesn't go back to the bank, or that you guys are not asking for food stamps or something like that if it's an income replacement life insurance. So you can just simply say, here's what we're going to do. Okay? That is the best way to close. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and we're going to send up a request for benefits right now while I'm sitting here. The great news is that we've already discussed your budget. We're not going to put you in something that you call me a month from now and say you can't afford, because we already know, because we've asked such good questions, that this is something you can afford. Our goals, like we said, were to find something that you understood, that you could qualify for, and that you could afford. You're not going to go into somebody's home and try to take food off their table. We would all be bad at this if we did. So at the end of your appointment, and if you're new, asking for that business. Now, if you are uncomfortable in your first 90 days with hitting them with requesting $150 a month or at $80 a month or whatever the premium is, you're going to need to reach out to your hiring manager or whomever brought you into Family First Life. Give them a call from the house. They're going to help you with so many things, and that's something I know we talk about the close being very intricate part of the sale, but at Family First Life, we've created an environment where you can reach out, your clients feel confident and comfortable that you have a team of people working with you to make sure you put them in the absolute best position. That's a quick phone call from the house. I have our agents put me on speaker. I introduce myself. The clients are they're just super sweet and very nice. And then you can get more direction, more help from a team of people, so you're not on your own. I know it gets scary in your first 90 days and you're worried that you're going to place the wrong product. The thing about closing a policy is very simple. If someone dies and their family gets a check, that is all you have to know. So we get confused and we convolute it. But John, Brad, Jess, and Matt, we've all talked about very simple things. These are not, no one's asking you to build a rocket ship. We're telling you if someone dies, someone writes a check. It's very simple. Make sure you're asking for the business. Simply say, John and Mary, again, thank you so much for the information you shared with me. I know exactly why I'm here. Here's what we're going to do. We found a premium that you can afford. You understand how this benefits you when you pass. And at the end of the day, the only thing we have to do is make sure that we get a policy number while I'm with you today. That's why simplified life insurance is so much more important than going through underwriting. When everybody else is waiting to get their blood drawn, you can actually leave them with a policy number, and that makes and a death benefit, a real dollar amount. And that's the difference. That's why closing a life insurance policy here is just so much easier.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the things that really can help new agents as well as veterans agents is understanding that it takes 5 things in every single house, and kind of diagnosing your formula and figuring out where you're missing or maybe where you're making it. Because I can walk out of every single home and say, I didn't get the sale because of this, or I did all these 5 things. So I'm going to cover that real quick as well. So the first thing you need to understand is people buy you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Basic sales 101, they got to like and trust you, right? So that's extremely important. Second thing is your company and your carriers that you represent. So you represent Family First Life simply because you're a broker. You didn't want to be a captive agent. You didn't want to be a one-size-fits-all scenario. You want to be able to have 27 different A-rated insurance companies to get them the best pricing and product for their specific scenario. The next one is your solution. One problem I see with a lot of new people is they're not good at identifying the pain points in the house. Yeah. And if we don't identify the pain points in the house, we certainly can't find the empathy because we're off on that. So if we don't identify the pain points, we can't provide the right solution. We can't put ourselves in their own shoes, which Jessica and Brad talk about financial inventory, how important that is. And the fourth thing is logical sense. Is purely that financial inventory. It has to make financial sense, so that's why financial inventory is a big scenario for each of you. That's got to make financial sense. And the last thing is, if you don't bring out the emotion and with storytelling, there will be no urgency. And without urgency, they're going to need to think about it and shop around. Kind of in the final closing thoughts, guys, John, what can you add to in-home sales here?
Just what you just touched on there is we have to do storytelling, and we have to admit that everyone knows we're all going to die. Okay, so if you just show a coverage amount and a payment amount that's strictly transactional. There's no emotion there. And so it's okay to be bold with people. It's okay to look at a financial inventory, like Jessica and Tiffany had mentioned, and cross off an income for the husband and say, Bob, if you die, this money stops tomorrow. And then look at Mary's income and say, how are you going to support all these bills with this mortgage with just your income? What are you going to do? And just be silent, let them talk. And I think that we need to, it's okay to do that because you're doing it in the best interest of the client. And not just be transactional by showing them numbers, because there's no emotion tied to that, by showing them a realistic view, using that financial inventory to paint a picture of what life's going to look like when one of the two of them passes away, but using it in their best interest.
Absolutely. Brad?
I would say be assumptive. When you walk in the house, know that you're going to help that family. It really, for me, it bleeds into everything that I do. When I know that I'm there to solve a problem and I'm going to do my best to get that family covered.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's perfect. You know, I definitely piggyback of what they said. You know, I walk into the home, it's just having that structure and understanding why you're there, right? Setting up the structure in the beginning, because if anything, I think if you do everything, if you do your in-home, this is my tip, if you do your same in-home in every single appointment, then you don't miss a step, right? Mm-hmm. Just treat every appointment the same, but don't have these blinders on. Be aware of your surroundings, you know, checking out to see who's in charge, who's kind of the decision maker, you know, what's happening in their life, knowing those additional questions to ask, because that's where it is right there. If we have these blinders on, then we're not going to get to those 5 things that you said. We're going to miss it.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I think one thing that as new agents might be a little bit more difficult is understanding nonverbal communication when you're in a house. Your clients will be talking to you when their mouth is not moving more than they do when their mouth is moving. And I think it's really important to recognize those things and to call them out, not be scared of calling them out. If you're sitting with a couple, or if you're in a final expense appointment and it's a single person and they cross their hands and they lean away from you, they don't like what you're saying. And it's okay to say, Matt, look, I've been here for about 10 minutes and you were leaning in and we were chatting, and then I said something about you'd have to pay for this and you folded your arms and leaned back. Now you and I both know that thing's free. You got to tell me what happened so we can have a good conversation about it. And being able to read those cues, or when you're sitting with a couple and they're talking about their income and you show them exactly, you cross them out, kill them on paper, and you show them you guys are going to go from an $8,500 income, and because you did not choose survivorship on any of your pensions, your income is going to go down to $2,500. What are you going to do? And then you look, and when the less income owner looks and there's just a real genuine look, you have to talk about that, and just be, I always try to tease people, like I'm the one who gets to bring up the good stuff, like dying, and people think it's funny, but you have to call it out. You have to be bold enough in the house to say, this is the reality for you. It's not going to change unless you do something about it today. That's why, thank goodness you asked me over today. I can help with that.
Yeah. Yeah, to summarize for all of you guys out there that are doing these sales, get your mind right, set the right expectations so the clients know what to expect, lead through that financial inventory, learn how to storytell and close, and the skies are the limit. So appreciate all of you guys checking in, and look forward to you guys' success. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks. Good.
Matt Smith here with John Gavin with Family First Life Northwest, and what we're going to cover on this video is we're going to talk about why you should hire. We're going to talk about how to hire on your warm market and how to hire cold market, and give you some tools to run with. So, John, why would you say people should hire at Family First Life?
I mean, there's so many different ways to answer that question. The biggest being, in all honesty, the biggest being is because you don't know who out there is looking for a new opportunity. We've got so much going on in the world right now that there's people that are really hurting for money. And this platform, and this business, and this company is the fastest way to make ridiculous amounts of money that I've ever seen. And I've got more agents now. I've got agents that have been with me 4 years and never hired one person until recently. And now they've got 4 or 5. And I don't look at those as just agents, because that just makes them a number. But they're people and they're situations. And there's certain people that we're pulling out of situations that they probably never thought they can work their way out of. And in the meantime, it's building an agency. It's helping the people who needed life insurance. It's helping the agent who has a new career now, and it's probably the most lucrative they've ever met. And the person that hires them gets to build an agency and in turn probably make more money than they ever thought imaginable.
Absolutely. And one thing about, the comp plan is you can go all the way up to 130% on your own pen.
Yep.
But the only way to get to the top comp of 145% is having an agency.
Yep.
One of the other things that's a huge benefit to having an agency is obviously as you hit vice president above, which is $150,000 per month, Sean's generous enough to give everyone a bonus on top of your override income.
It's crazy.
So, and that's non-charge backable money.
Yep.
That you're able to keep for yourself, your business, however you want to spend it, it's yours. And that's game changer type scenarios where, people go from getting a $315 bonus one month to, $5,000, then double digits, and that can turn into, $100,000+ if you have a big enough agency, and
Yep.
non-charge backable money on top of your personal production, on top
Yep.
of your override income. And the great thing about what we do here is we can offer the agents out there that are at the 35, 55, 75, 80, we can offer them aggressive comp right off the bat. So you're going to have a lot more people stick in this business. There's a huge amount of turnover in sales in general.
Yep.
However, with hiring with Family First Life, it is different because people can actually stay and stick because of the comp that we offer, because of the lead program, the mentoring, the hiring, the training, etc. It's all for the taking. Anything else you want to add to reasons to hire? I think I like what you said about there is a bigger picture though, John.
There's a much bigger picture.
Think about how much your life's changed. Think about how my life's changed. Think about all the agents that work with us and how their lives have changed. You see people buying cars, houses, and houses of their dreams, and it's amazing.
One of my favorite hiring stories, and I'll make this pretty quickly though, is one of my agents went to his ex-brother-in-law's house because he was in sales and he thought he'd do really well. And he started telling about Family First Life, and he got into licensing class. But his other ex-brother-in-law happened to be sitting there who drove a forklift in a warehouse, and he made $2,500 a month. He went and got his license. He took off. He's now making between $30,000 and $35,000 a month, and this is only 10 months later. So 11 months ago, he's in a warehouse driving a forklift, and now he's making on the average about $30,000 a month. And I interviewed him on one of our agency calls. And I asked him what pushed him to go as far as he has in this business so far. And now he's got about 5 agents himself. And he said, I realized I deserve it. And it's just such a cool story to hear that, because this is a business that anybody can do. This is a business that anybody can thrive in. And when we put ourselves out there through warm market and social media and that sort of thing, and share the success stories of the company, we start drawing in people that we may not be targeting. They might be sitting on a couch next to the person we're sitting next to, but they realize what a great opportunity this is, and they want to be part of it and jump on board as well too.
Absolutely. I think, let's get into warm market hiring as far as that's concerned. Let's talk about the effective tools that works. Obviously, just reaching out to individuals that that could thrive in this business is a great start. Yep. I mean, it's if you look at people that are succeeding at Family First Life, I don't know the actual number, but probably at least 3/4 of them come from a warm market environment.
Absolutely.
So the reason why warm market is so important as far as getting started is because people trust you and know you.
Yep.
Now, the other side to that coin, John, that we should address is a lot of times we hear agents say, you know what, I want to hire, and I want to hire right away, but I want to do it once I've had some success.
Yep.
How would you approach that?
Well, I can tell you right now that had the person that hired me waited till they had success, we wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Good point.
Because the person that hired me, I was day one of a new job, getting back into the mortgage business. My very first day, somebody came in, asked me if I was looking to make some extra money. I said, sure. I already had my insurance license from something else before. Came to this business, saw you have somebody that is interested in buying insurance, and all I do is call them and go and sell them insurance. My first $2 I made, I set appointments. My first 2 appointments I sold, and then I gave the laptop back to the mortgage company and then came over here full time. The person that hired me didn't work out. So had he waited till he worked out, I wouldn't be here. And so you shouldn't stop somebody else from succeeding because you may not.
Right.
And if you don't feel comfortable in training and hiring somebody, Family First Life is one big support system. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're at, you're going to get the support. Our system pretty much is plug and play. So you can hire anybody, and we have a system that anybody can thrive in. So, John Wetmore said it perfectly. He's like, you don't tell your friends about the gym after you get your abs. Because he'll never get there, so it's just a matter of, why not share this experience? Because it may not work out for you, but it could work out for so many other people.
Absolutely. I think the key component is don't make financial decisions for other people.
That's
right?
Exactly it. You just said it better than me.
Yeah, no, I didn't say that. But the key component is sharing the opportunity with as many people as you can.
Absolutely.
One of the ways that let's talk about effective ways to do that.
Okay.
One of the things that how I hired, Dan and Tiffany, for example, was I was texting them my deposits. And man, when you're making some good money on a daily basis and you can drip on people that way, now you can do it several different ways. You could do it on your social media platforms where you can post deposits. Yep. You can still tell stories. One of the other things that I feel like is a very effective tool is getting on Facebook Live and telling quick stories about your day. Like, hey, I sat with, John and Mary. I was able to alleviate the financial burden on them with a final expense appointment. So they put in, $15,000 worth of coverage. I was in their house for 40 minutes. I got paid $542 in about 2 days. If you want to find out more about that, give me a call.
Absolutely.
Creating that, and then you tell another story. Hey, I was able to protect someone's retirement where they never can lose any money. I was giving them the lifetime income, and I was able to save, $140,000. I got paid $8,500.
Yeah. Yep.
If you want to learn more about that, so you start to get creative with your content, and you start to do it consistently. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you got people's attention. Yep. And the biggest thing with social media, either you can use social media or social media can use you. Yeah. And if you use it the right way, you see a lot of the big agencies out there that have grown in massive ways. Yeah. They're putting their stuff out there all the time consistently. Storytelling, using testimonials of agents can be very effective. Yep. So you never have to worry about being the person. If you're not the person right off the bat, you never have to worry about being the person.
Share the stories.
To do whatever that. Share the stories. And those are very effective ways to get out there. And obviously, if you don't feel confident or comfortable talking to a new recruit, have your manager or the person that hired you, have them talk to them for you.
Yeah.
And we all be happy to do that for anybody. So that's extremely important. Anything else you want to add, warm market-wise?
Yeah, we're such a transparent company. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of rah-rah stuff here. It's all nuts and bolts. And being as transparent as we are, our agents make more than any other agents out there. That's just hands down.
Yeah.
The best platform, most profitable agents out there. So if you start sharing those sort of things on your social media with friends and family, you'll be unbelievably surprised at who's going to reach out to you, especially in today's market, because a lot of incomes have suffered because of what's going on in the country today, in the world today. And a lot of people with high-paying jobs have had their incomes cut or completely stopped for right now. And so if you share your experiences with people, you don't have to reach out and quote-unquote bother people, but if you share your experiences, you'll be shocked at who's going to reach out to you and say, and privately, and to say, hey, I'm looking for a new opportunity. Hey, my job went away. Hey, I'm not making the sales I was and the industry I was before. I want to know more about what you're doing. And so social media is a great way to kind of attract those sort of people, because if you do it enough and they like you and they trust you, they want a little bit of what you're doing.
Absolutely. As far as cold market hiring, I think you've got to do both to be successful. It first starts with making sure that you have a marketing budget.
Yes.
And whether it's small and it's $300 and even a month, it's a start.
Yeah.
Obviously, the more that you pour into that and the more consistent you do it, the easier it will be to find people. The other big scenario where you're going to be able to scale and grow is finding the right staff.
Yes.
Which is a complete another subject, but
yes.
If I'll spend a minute on it, but biggest thing I can tell you about staff is do rounds of interviews. Get 10 people in, do second rounds with the 3 people you like, be choosy and picky, because really think about all of the decisions and choices you make in your life. How well you choose your partner, your business partner, the industry you're in, all those things are based off of your success. So staff is no different. It's either going to propel or it's going to hinder you in some degree, but it's vital if you really want to scale in the cold market business, because it's difficult for an individual to start. Maybe we're starting, you're putting Craigslist ads out, you put your phone number on, contact me. Yes, you can do that, run business and do that, but eventually you're running in different directions and you're not organized and you're not able to blow up like you really should. Yep. So talk about the different resources, tools that we've used or seen through cold market.
Okay. So just getting back to what you had just mentioned, when it comes to assistants, admins, hiring managers, learn from our mistakes and hire slowly and fire quickly. This isn't our company's growing so fast that if you're not keeping pace with it, something's wrong. I've had to go through a few until I found the right mix, and I've got some great ones now.
Yep.
I think we do it backwards though. We want to have an admin, so we hire quickly, and we like them, so we fire slowly. We need to reverse that. So some of the avenues that we use, and these are constant adjustments. It's sort of like a check engine light for your car. If something doesn't sound right or that light goes off, something's going wrong. You may not know what it is, but you need to do a diagnostic check to see what it is. And if your numbers aren't keeping up with the pace of the company, where are you going wrong percentage-wise? And so we use ZipRecruiter a lot. We do a lot of Craigslist ads. For people just starting hiring, that's a great avenue to just place a couple ads in a couple cities. Family First Life's got such a strong name that, somebody who is not in the business but is attracted to your ad, we can send off enough information to gain their interest, okay? But also, because our platform's so strong, and there's so many other people out there that are inferior platforms, they have low comp, they have to pay for their training, they do bait and switch for their leads and that sort of thing. Our platform is so much stronger that if you put yourself out there with the ZipRecruiter, with the Indeed, with Career Builder, and those sort of things, those job-seeking apps, you're going to start attracting people in the business.
Yeah.
And once they catch wind of our platform, then it's game over. Wait a minute, you guys pay this much? How do you do that? That's the biggest question I get is, how do you guys pay so much? Okay, well, the insurance company pays the IMO a certain amount, and yours just chooses to keep it. We don't. We pay to the agents. And then our training is nuts and bolts, how to sell insurance training. And I'm shocked at how many people come to us and none of their training revolves around actually selling insurance. And so, that's what our training is. It's how to sell insurance, how to hire, how to become more profitable. And then you finish off the rest of the platform, with our, vested renewals, no contract, and then our bonuses. When you find somebody else through cold market that has some experience in the insurance field and they come across our platform, if they've sold any insurance there, they can sell a ton here.
Absolutely.
And so it makes it an easy transition. It's just a matter of putting those dollars into it, attracting those people, doing the interviews, and then exposing them to our platform, our training and everything, and then just bringing them on board.
Absolutely. And I think the other key component to this is our staff here at Family First Northwest, as well as staff inside of our agencies, are more than willing to help you, give you the ads that we place, give you the scripts, even train your admins or you yourself on what to expect on calls, what it looks like, what we have the numbers as far as what's the most profitable resources you use. I think social media, there's different social media campaigns that are out there that you can generate leads from as well. Direct messaging on Facebook and LinkedIn, as well as joining different platforms on Facebook and then direct messaging people offline has been a very effective tool for a lot of people. But it's those that are willing to do it, those that are willing to take it to the next level is where you see the progress. If you're never going to make any money if you just sit there and wait. So it's all about step one and then getting step two, step three, and then being consistent with it. as well. Any final overall thoughts in regards to hiring?
The last one I'll end with is, a lot of people get into the insurance business because we know you can make a lot of money. But when you change your mindset to not, I can make a lot of money doing this, it's I can help a lot of other people make a lot of money. And when you do that, you put your head down. Say you put your head down for a year, and your main goal is to help as many people make as much money as they possibly can. You pick your head back up, and you've got an agency. Yeah. And not only do you have a bunch of people making more money than they ever thought before, and a bunch of families protected because we sell life insurance, but the return yourself is really strong too. And your bank account will probably have more in it than you ever thought imaginable. Your deposits are more than you ever thought imaginable. And your lifestyle and your family security is better than you ever thought it could be. Absolutely.
And some of the final touches I would say is when you do hire, cold market and have that individual, I think having that discussion with them as far as, are you looking to be a business owner, or are you looking to be just a insurance agent that's out there selling? Yeah. Most people are looking to be a business owner, at least that's what they'll tell me. Yeah. But then you need to identify and say, okay, so you're looking to build an agency, here's the expectations on what that will look like. Yep. And if you set expectations up front with your new hires in regards to hiring, you'll have a tremendous amount of results right off the bat, because now you get layers of leadership. Yep. For years, John, you knew, and you've dealt with the same thing early on, where we were just adding. Yep. And then subtracting and adding and subtracting. Yep. That's not an effective way to grow an agency. It's developing leadership underneath you where you start to explode, and then you see all the numbers, and then everybody is hiring with you. Everybody's got marketing budgets. Everybody's got offices and staff. Yep. And that's when it gets good. And it's just a matter of just getting started and starting to identify those things up front with your people. Yep. It's no different than any home in the house. It's the same thing when you're hiring an agent, and that's going to really maximize your results. So absolutely. So thanks for getting on this video, and I look forward to your success.
Thanks.
Matt Smith here with $1 Million Producer Brad Allen, and we are going to talk to you in this video about advanced markets, probably the biggest area that you can improve on, and that would absolutely have the biggest impact financially for you and your family, is advanced markets through fixed index annuities and index universal life. So we're going to spend some time unpacking this with my man Brad. He'll pay probably close to $5 to $6 million of annuity business in 2020.
That's correct.
So that's a big number. So a lot we can learn from Brad, as well as myself. I have a pretty good track record myself of doing that, doing annuities as well. So in regards to retirement, Brad, I always say that it first starts understanding retirement fears, because the fear of loss is 2.5 times greater than the fear of gain. And when you understand that, when you start to communicate with your clients, then you understand what their motives are with their money, and you really can start to move it quicker. So, the 5 retirement fears are, obviously, the 5th is leaving a legacy. The 4th is negative returns. The 3rd is outpacing inflation. The 2nd is, long-term care and healthcare costs going up. And then the number 1 fear of retirement is making sure that you have lifetime income. People are concerned about outliving their money all the time. So those are your 5 retirement fears. So I really want you to focus and understand that's what people do with their money, and that's their fears in regards to retirement. Once we understand that and we sit down with clients, now we can start to operate and understand how to move the money around. So we're going to talk to you about, qualified funds, which is, qualified to pay taxes like 401ks, traditional IRAs. We're going to talk to you about non-qualified funds, which is basically after-tax money not qualified to pay taxes, as well as savings accounts. We'll even talk to you about a variable annuity and what that looks like, how we can help improve people with variable annuities. And then we'll also talk about, TSPs and FERS, so state and federal funds that we can help clients with as well. I'll start with the qualified funds, Brad. And when we're talking about 401ks, traditional IRAs, what do you do to create that fear or interest to get that second appointment to then move the money? And what are you saying in your second appointment to move the money?
Perfect. Thank you, Matt. So after I go through the financial inventory and it's, what do you make? What do you spend? Are you a saver? It's not the golden question, but I think it's kind of like the silver question because I'm looking for savers.
Yeah.
Because the difference between what we do with the fixed indexed annuities is they're contractual guarantees. It's not a risk-based investment where, it's speculative. So I'm trading speculation for certainty, and I'm looking for that personality type. So in the financial inventory, when I get to the middle section is what do you have, the golden question. What do you have that looks or acts like insurance that could cover the liability in your estate upon your death? And I find qualified money like an IRA or a 401k. If it's an orphan 401k, in other words, it's left over from a previous employer, I know that there's an opportunity to protect and grow that. If it's something where they can actually move it, they can do an in-service distribution, and that's the magic words to ask the benefits coordinator at their company, and I tee them up for that. I really just try to identify how much of that money, whatever it is, are they really willing to lose? And I ask it a couple of times because usually what I hear is zero. And I say, well, if it's really zero, then it wouldn't all still be sitting there. Right. So what's your real number? Because, I'm looking at 600,000. So if your number is zero, great, I can show you how to protect and grow that on the investment arc above bank account, above money market CD bonds, right below the market. That's the sweet spot right there without risk or fee. And so I tease that up and I really set the follow-up appointment where I come in and show how their numbers really shine. That's what I usually do.
Absolutely. I think the three things that everybody could focus on when you're meeting with retirement clients is, what type of money obviously is it? One of the most important questions is when do they need the money? And are they taking it right now or do they need it in the future, right? And what is the money for? Like, is it all for income? Because usually people only save for income.
Yep.
So when you meet people, the main reason why anybody saves is for future income. Right? For retirement.
Exactly.
But if we can identify those things, then we can build the value around the plan of what type of annuity we can present them, which is great with the AMS team and the things they'll do for you as far as illustrations, the CRM, Ask a Specialist. Those are all great resources and tools.
Correct.
But we're kind of getting into the nuts and bolts of how to find a plan while you're with the client.
Right.
And it's going to be one-on-one, you and them, and you need to understand how to move. So when you go back, Brad, and you're dealing with a 401k or whatnot, is there any specific things that you really drill down and say to a client that helps you build the value, above the price, I suppose?
Absolutely. So the things that I say every single time is look at your statement and how it's performed. Now, whether they're gaining or losing is really irrelevant because you're, say, 64 years old. You're coming up on retirement, for example. That's kind of my typical demographic where I meet people. They're really at the end of the roller coaster of, accumulation. And I say, the number is what it is. And now we need to transition you into the preservation stage so that to address one of the 5 fears, you don't outlive your money. And so if you're looking at where you are now, it's done well, it's not done well, it is what it is. Are you interested in being in a place where you don't go backwards anymore and you only go forwards? And if that's yes, and it almost always is yes, then I run the illustration for them and show them in the second meeting how their money really works for them. And we do some requirement gathering. What do you want to do in retirement? How do you want to have access to this money? Can you live within a 10% access? Because I don't want you seeing surrender charges. And if you have to go over, I always say what that would look like. So if you have, like, say, year 5, you're going to be experiencing a 5% surrender charge, and you can say, let's say that you've got 100,000 and account value in year 5, you could take out 10,000, but you take out 11. Well, they're still going to give you your money, but they're going to hold back 5%.
Absolutely.
So they're going to hold back $50 of that extra 1,000. Right? So it's like, well, you're going to get, 10,950 of your 11,000. And as long as you're okay with that, we should do the planning now. Life does happen. But what I could say contractually is that you're going forward, no longer backwards. And the worst thing is to be going backwards and paying a fee to do so.
Yeah, absolutely.
That always stings.
Absolutely. A couple things that I have always loved to say to clients, Brad, is, like, especially when you get into the distribution phase versus, accumulation phases, is, listen, I don't know you that well, right? But here's what I do know about money. If you're getting 6% on your money compared to 9%, you're not going to be that upset, believe it or not. You're not going to be that upset if you're at 9 to 6. Do you want the 9? Of course you want the 9, right? But you're not going to be upset. The difference is bull markets last usually about 7 years. We're basically on year 12 now of a huge run. And, the average bear market lasts about a year and a half. And it tears down portfolios anywhere from 20 to 40%, depending on when it happens. And because you can't afford to lose money like you once have, because you're not 35 anymore, you're 65 or whatever age,
Right.
You're not going to be upset about 6%. But I'll tell you what, if you got your statement and it showed minus 25%, you'd be really upset. Yeah. So that's why these safety of principal and indexing strategies are so effective for index universal life as well as annuities, because you lock in your gains, you don't participate in your losses. Mm-hmm. You can do it for accumulation and distribution. You can take, withdrawals that way as well as, or you can turn on lifetime income like you're talking about. So I think it's important as we, you will kill people, not literally in the house when it comes to life insurance, but when we kill people's money.
Yes.
And they understand, hey, you could be 82. People are living a lot longer.
Yeah.
You could be 82, Brad, and you could, you're 500,000. You think that you've got some money right now. Right. Well, have a year and a half drop where your portfolio drops down 40% and you're still taking 5 or 6% out, right, or whatever the number is going to be. Yeah. You're going to run out of money at age 82.
No, that's a great point.
So can you see why this makes financial sense? Yes. Okay. Let's go through suitability. So I think making sure you know how to kill money is a great tool, and story tell what that looks like.
Of course you say story. That's what I was just going to say, is I tell a story in that second meeting just to really hammer home the point of one of the fears is outliving your money. And I say, imagine your retirement is like getting in the car in the desert in Nevada. Mm-hmm. Your gas tank's going to get you 200 miles. That's your bank account. That's your current investment. And you pass a next gas station sign that says 250 miles. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh no, there's no way I'm going to make it. Your whole retirement, you're checking the bank account. That's a horrible way to spend your retirement, constantly seeing if you're going to run out of gas. And so I can't believe you just said storytelling, because that's what I do in every appointment. Absolutely. Is I drive home these points that are typically mathematical or analytical with stories. Yeah. And because the stories really, for most people, resonate that, no, I don't want to be stressed out about my money when I'm in retirement. So that quad fold that Sean Ruggiero and the AMS team put out, and the number one thing of the power of indexing, and that you only go up, not down, realized gains, not paper gains or paper losses. I always leave that behind in between the first and the second appointment. I'm sure most people don't really look at it, but that's okay. I say of the 7 points, really just key in on number 1. Because that's the thing we're going to talk about when I come back and see you next.
Absolutely. And those pamphlets can be found in the CRM as well, which is very easy to print out and bring to your appointment. So it's a great point, Brad. As far as, non-qualified funds, really you can approach them very similar to qualified funds. The only difference is you're not dealing with, required minimum distribution plans with qualified money versus non-qualified. So there are different programs, but in regards to cash, so we meet a lot of people that have just money in the bank, sitting there and really earning no interest because of the low interest rate environment. That's not going to change anytime soon. My simple close has always been, inflation, right? If you've got to find the ability to out-earn inflation safely. So if I can show you a product that will safely out-earn inflation and be as safe as putting the money in the bank, because it's not FDI insured, but it is backed by the insurance company and the state insurance fund and some reinsurance companies along with the insurance company.
Right.
It's just about as safe as money in the bank.
Correct.
Then would you be interested? And every single time you're just trial closing like that to create interest, and say, okay, I'll come back in a couple days and I'm going to show you this, and then leave your pamphlet. You can point to the pamphlet section you want them to focus on, right? And that's how you create the interest to hold that second appointment. And money in the bank is probably the easiest one, because you just have them write a check.
Right.
When they get to the house, it's not difficult.
True.
Anything you can add to savings?
I have two of those out right now. One's not very big; it's $75,000. Another one is $200,000. They've both been through suitability, and both clients are looking at timing the market, because they want to, go in when the market's, low, buy low, sell high.
Right.
And so I've told them both the same thing, that the best time is now, because that's why the market is the market. You don't know if it's going to be a big up or big down, but we need to get you in, because right now you're coffee can in the backyard guy. Right? Your money's doing nothing. It's 0.002%.
Right.
And so, like I said in our last meeting, you're going to outperform your bank account without risk. You're going to outperform, a CD or a money market or a bond. And so the time to start is yesterday. We need to do this now. And actually today, when we finish here, I'm swooping by to collect one of those checks. So, I kind of talk out of both sides of my mouth sometimes. That on the non-qualified, it's, you need to capture the gains that you've got so you don't slip backwards, and then continue to grow, outpacing the other subpar investments. And then on the non-qualified side, it's you're leaving money on the table, and this is the best non-risk type of investment you can have. Why are you waiting? There's no risk. It's a contract.
Yeah, most people aren't aware of those tools, especially people with the savings account. They just don't even know a fixed index annuity exists. So our job is to bring it to the forefront. And if you just ask these questions inside financial inventory, you're going to find a lot of those opportunities.
I think people are confusing them with variable.
For sure.
Annuities?
A lot of times. And variable annuities have a bad name. Let's talk about variable annuities, in fact. So variable annuities, a lot of times when you sit down with people, Brad, and they say, my portfolio is guaranteed 6-7%. What they really mean, because they don't even know they own one, is I have a variable annuity. So with annuities, generally speaking, you have a cash value side and an income value side. And on fixed index annuities, depending on the type of annuity, as well as variable annuities, they'll have lifetime income options as well as your cash side. Well, the lifetime income option, when we're talking about guarantees, that is what people believe their cash account is too. So it's two separate things, number one. So when you ever hear somebody say, I'm getting a guaranteed 6 or 7%, it means they probably have a variable annuity. And the biggest thing about a variable annuities are they're extremely heavy fee-oriented animals. And when you break down the amount of fees, mortality expense and expense ratios and admin fees and then you're talking about the fees inside of mutual funds that they own and all these things, it gets upwards to 5% a lot of times on these accounts. And people wonder why the market's gone bananas. And the market's gone bananas, right? And they got a 6-7% income rider, but their income rider has out-earned their cash side, and supposedly the money's in the market with all this upside potential. So the biggest thing I say to a variable annuity client, to keep it very simple, you could sell $1 million of annuity every year just by this one phrase when you meet somebody that has a variable annuity. Say, I'm assuming you bought this for the guarantees, correct, Brad? And they'll say, yes. Say, great. If I can show you a higher guarantee, I'm sure you'd be interested in look at that option. Would you agree? Yes. So now you can show them a 10% roll-up rate and most likely improve what they already have. Now, if they're already taking the income, though, off a variable annuity, really difficult to move, just so you know. It's possible, but very difficult to improve their circumstances, but if they haven't turned on the income side on a variable annuity, the vast majority of the time we're going to be able to help improve that as well. So anything you want to add on when you meet with variable annuities there?
Well, when it comes to variable, I tell people that that's what I used to do in my previous company, and I now deal in certainties. So
I like that.
I traded the speculation for the contractual guarantees. I love saying guarantees. I guarantee. I love saying guarantee.
Everybody likes guarantees. I like guarantees.
I do too.
Just because you said it so many times, I'm excited. So with federal and state funds, FERS, and TSPs, generally they just annuitize that money.
Yeah.
So a lot of people like the idea of, hey, if I can show you a way to give you those same benefits, but then you have the control.
Yes.
And potentially we could put you in a better program, I'm sure you'd be interested. So it's all about teeing this up. People overcomplicate these things, but they don't ask about it. So if you're worth a federal or state employee, they most likely have a TSP.
Yeah.
You can move that money at age 60 and above, so not before then.
Right.
But it's a simple sale. And gosh, I've moved a lot of TSPs in my day, just giving them lifetime guarantees in a way there. How about you, Brad? Have you dealt with that as well?
I've been doing a lot with that lately because of the year that we're in with the pandemic and the weird economy and companies really struggling to meet their numbers. There's been a lot of packages being handed out, voluntary layoffs. Hey, if you take early retirement, we're going to give you a little bit of a bump so that we can lower our staff count and run rate. So I'm meeting people for different reasons. It could be, an instant internet life lead, and I'm sitting with them, and it's like, oh, hey, what do you do for a living, Matt? It's like, well, I used to be an engineer at but I'm going to take the package. It's like, really? Well, so what is the package? Well, they're guaranteeing me $3,600 a month. I say, oh, okay, well, I do that too, So I'm assuming that it's not an Athene fixed indexed annuity named Agility. There is only one number one. You could go with number two. I wouldn't. If I have a choice between the number one or the number two, because let's be honest, those are all annuities.
Yep.
And if you had the option to choose the number one, hey, I'm not an IVR. I'm Brad Allen. I live in your neighborhood. I answer my phone. I'm free to you. And I do this all day long. And I'm representing the number one company in this space on the planet. And if we're lucky enough to get you into the number one product, why wouldn't you? And that's probably the last 5 that I've done have been exactly that way. People that are retiring and they don't want to take an inferior annuity through a pension.
Absolutely. Those are great points. Let's transition. So most of the time, a lot of producers will say, can somebody contribute on a monthly basis to annuities? These are single premium items. There's like small ones. My advice is just stay away from anything that as far as annuities, to contribute to them on a monthly basis. So when we're talking about contributions, now we can shift gears into index universal life and tax-free retirement.
Yeah.
I think it's important for individuals to understand that there's 4 types of money. So the best type of money is free money. The second best is tax-free, then tax deferred, then taxed, right? So just understanding that is important, but also starting to develop strategies. The thing I love about IULs is, like I said, the only reason why people save money is for income. So the other thing is Trinity College came out with that study about the 4% rule, which would be, if you have $100,000, you could take out $4,000 a year and never worry about outliving your money.
Right.
Well, the thing I would say about an IUL, and Morningstar is down to 2.8%, by the way, on withdrawal rates. So long story short is withdrawal rates are just as important as interest rates.
Yeah.
And people don't even spend any time on withdrawal rates and factors. So the key component in regards to IULs is, the thing I like about it is indexes, so you can't lose any money. Right. You get the realized gains, you capture gains, lock in those gains. But then when you start to withdraw the money out, Brad, you can take that 7, 8, sometimes 9%, depending on how long you fund a product, out every year and never worry about outliving your money. And because of taxes, taxes as low as they've ever been.
Right.
That's going to change sooner. It probably will change soon now.
Right.
It's important for you to start developing a tax-free retirement strategy that maximizes your income and decreases your tax footprint.
Yeah.
So talk to you. I know you sell a lot of IULs. Talk to us about that as well.
Yeah, so when I first started, I wrote down everything you said. I really did. This ratio, that you should do some of those. And I remember you said that you had, I think it was 6 IULs in your family. Some for you, some for your kids, and what have you. So I only have 2. I'm still 4 behind. But before I plopped down my money, I wanted to know everything I could about all of the IUL, the industry. Really, I trust you, Matt. I really do. But
trust but verify.
Trust but verify. So when I'm sitting in front of a prospective IUL client, I can say with conviction that I believe in the recommendation because I own it. Mm-hmm. It's huge. It makes a huge difference. So I have the Mutual of Omaha IUL Express with an increasing death benefit. Why wouldn't you? Yep. And I also have the Accordia or Global Atlantic Financial, the Lifetime Builder Elite. Yep. And I'm overfunding those. Yep. And it's a couple grand a month. But it's because I'm not as young as you. So I need to throw more cash at it to make up for time. Sure. But the beautiful thing, like you said, is it's another passive income stream that I can look forward to in my retirement years. And that's the way I present it to people. One, on the fixed index annuity side, has nothing to do with health. It has everything to do with cash flow and liquidity, and if it makes sense, and what we can roll and what we can't one time. And the other is kind of the kissing cousin, where they both don't go below 0, but one is a pay-as-you-go, and it is health-based. And so if you're healthy enough and you don't have a big lump sum to roll over, but you want all the benefits of the annuity, but you have to do a pay-as-you-go, this is the one for you. And it's the hottest one in the industry based on your profile, your bank account, your budget, your health. And that's how I do so many of those. Absolutely.
And I think it's important for you to understand as far as illustrations, things like that. You can click on Ask a Specialist, get with the AMS team. I know Kim does a great job, as well as Lauren with annuities over there. There'll be some great resources and tools for you as well. One of the things I would tell you about any time that you can meet with clients, if you can keep things simple, they're used to advisors talking over their heads and really going like this 10,000 foot view that they can't even understand. If you can keep it simple and talk to them about like that Trinity rule there that they came out with, that study, the 4% rule, 2.8 Morningstar, all those things. If you talk about that and talk about what savings looks like and how much they can truly have, and then show them what on a tax-free basis what that looks like and how it won't affect their Social Security income. It's basically it's inside of a permanent life insurance policy, so that's the way they get around the IRS, I suppose. And it's just a great benefit and a great tool, I think, between index universal life as well as fixed index annuities. If you're not making at least $100,000 in each category of extra income, it just means that you're not paying attention. So you're literally stepping over dollars to pick up pennies if you're not in the advanced market.
And people ask me, where do you find these opportunities? I've been running a lot of final expense, and I just don't see the same things that you see. That's not true. I'm running the exact same leads in the exact same zip code. It's kind of like when you buy a blue truck, all of a sudden you see all the blue trucks on the road. You need to at least break the seal. If you haven't sold an IUL or an index universal life or a fixed index annuity, when you go through the financial inventory and you're asking the golden question and you see some dollar amount that's over 50,000, circle it and talk to your upline manager and run a follow-up appointment. And as soon as you start to identify those opportunities, they start to snowball. And we have a lot of lead sources, some of which, like the Annuity Hub, they actually are leads for these products. Sure. So it's not like you need to just find them in some different type of lead. We now have leads that are specifically designed to identify these opportunities. So there's really no excuse. Sean Ruggiero said, and I do pay attention. He said, you should see one of these at least once a month. And so that's what I was always, having as a metric, that I should be at least writing one fixed indexed annuity a month, and at least that much and more index universal life. And I've really doubled down on those goals where it should be, a couple of months.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely. And I think Brad hit it on the head, where you run final expense, you run mortgage leads, you run instant internet life leads, you do Medicare, and you get annuity sales and IUL sales based off of all those different avenues.
Absolutely.
It's never just a one-trick pony. No. There's many different ways to do it. And it's amazing to me, doing this for a dozen years, seeing a producer, you're up in Seattle area, they'll be in Seattle and they can't find any money.
Right.
And they can't move any money. Yeah. And then Brad's got, $6 million of issue paid annuity business this year, for example, in the same exact territory, same client base, same everything. And it's just being aware, become a student of the game, plugging into the resources that we have at Family First Life, and going to the next level. So
can I share one story?
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
So my favorite annuity that I've written was just about 2 months ago. It was a mortgage protection lead. I got to the house. They said, due to COVID, please do not come in. My husband has stage 4 cancer. So I go to the house, knock on the door, step back 10 feet, say, hey, I'm Brad. Here's my license. Here's the request you sent in. I just need to verify your ID. I'll run the appointment from the driveway. And I'm thinking, well, you never know.
Right.
And so I verify IDs, they're a nice couple, they're late 60s. And I'm sitting in the driveway on my cell phone, taking notes, doing my financial inventory. And he had about 1.2 million in 401ks, a couple different 401ks. And they wanted to protect the mortgage, and he's worried about, if he passes away, will his wife be able to stay in the house?
Right.
And I said, well, what I think you really should do, because with stage 4 cancer, my options are limited, but you could self-insure. And he's like, what do you mean self-insure? I said, well, we'll just protect a portion of this amount to pay off the house in the event of your death. Voids probate, tax-free. And he's like, how do you do that? And so I set the follow-up, and I ran it 100% over Zoom. So the next week from my office, got them both on Zoom, and wrote the Agility 10 with a 20% bump to the benefit base, so that if he passes, not only is the house going to be paid off for his wife, but additional 20% paid out over the 5 years. And he said, can I roll over more than what the house is? I said, yeah, we'll have to get you through suitability. Ended up rolling, and it's now issued. It was $670,000. It was my biggest one recently that issued, and it was 100% virtual.
That's pretty strong.
And it had everything to do with identifying and seeing the opportunity and not being afraid to approach it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Being able to pivot in the house is the game changer when you have maybe an unhealthy client, but they have money. Knowing how to transition that is huge, and a lot of people miss those opportunities. But if you're aware, hungry, and willing, you'll definitely find it. So, thanks for joining us on this video. I hope it helps. If you have questions, make sure to get with the AMS team as well. Great, tremendous resources there. And thank you, Brad, as well.
Thanks, Matt.
Yep. How's it going, everybody? Matt Smith here with our $1 Million producer, Brad Allen. And we're going to talk to you about financial inventory, how to utilize it, what to look for, and how it really is going to affect your business in a very positive way. And if you don't use it, it's going to be a negative scenario as well. So I'm going to pass it to Brad, and he'll go through some things to focus on, and I'll just give my input as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, Matt. So when I come into a house for the first time, I obviously build rapport, and it's like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I love this neighborhood, a couple minutes, maybe even less. And then I sit at a table, or really in the environment we're in with the pandemic, any flat surface that I can find. You have to be a little flexible. But then you take out the lead that you have, and I flip my lead over. So I've done the agent mentor financial inventory sheet that's out there. Then I found that I didn't have one with me, and so I was making it up on the fly, and that seemed to be what I was doing every time, and I found that I was asking the same questions every time. So then I made my own financial inventory, and then I forgot to bring those with me. The point is really, what do you make after tax each month? What are your monthly bills? And I slow down and I say, mortgage or rent, utilities, car payment, how many car payments are there left? Car insurance, credit card bills, food, how many people do we have in the house? Great. Okay, do you have any charitable monthly givings that are reoccurring? Is there any healthcare costs? So it's fairly verbose, and what I'm trying to identify is, where do they spend their money? Are they spenders or are they savers? And in that first section of the financial inventory, I get to the what do you make, and is there a his and a hers? Where is the cash flow coming from? How is it spent? And then at the end of the day, is this your number? It looks like you make 5, but you spend 4. Do you have about $1,000 left over at the end of each month, Mr. Smith? And it's a yes or no. Usually it's like, yeah, it never feels like that much, but yeah, I guess so. Okay, great. So tell me, are you a saver? How much do you typically have in checking and savings? Any given Tuesday, you poke your nose in there, what do you see? So it's all in how I ask that question, but I do ask it every time. I make it very matter of fact, nonchalant. It's just I'm going through my process, and I do it every time. Why? Because A, I want to know, are they savers? Because if they can make 1 payment and not 2, then you're just looking at a chargeback. So I want to know if they're savers and how much of savers they are, because it could be that I'm sitting with a potential client that would be in a return of premium type product. And then I can say, first of all, what do you make, what do you spend, what do you have left over? And then what do you already have that looks or acts like insurance, so that I can identify advanced market sales opportunities, or if they have any insurance that needs to be replaced or increased. And when I say, do you have any insurance that you own? They say, oh, well, I have, this through work. It's like, no, I said that you own. Because it's great to have something that's a rental, but it's not yours. So we don't count that because you don't own it. We're talking about ownership here. And then the last thing is, what do you qualify? What are your medical conditions and what are your medications? And let's do a 5 to 10 year look back. So I have a pretty good idea within about 5 minutes what somebody could qualify for, not necessarily what they want or what they think they need, but what I think they could qualify for.
No, that's huge, Brad. I think a couple of my focus points in regards to utilizing financial inventory is just understanding that 52% of life insurance is sold based off of income replacement. So they may have filled out a form for final expense, internet life or mortgage, right. But the new hot button is found by you talking about the income, right? So yes. Once we can, kill them on paper and show them what it looks like on paper, right. Financial inventory is logical sense. So we're trying to make logical sense out of the sale with financial inventory.
Correct.
The 2 other aspects that are going to be huge for you is you've got to look at, how much do they contribute to the 401k? Let's say they make $5,000 a month and they say, I put 10% in, maybe they get a 5% free match. So that means that other 5% is not getting any free money. Well, we can take that 5%, so let's say it's $250 a month, right. And we can reallocate premium to either an HMS 125 cash back or an IUL candidate.
Correct.
So we can locate premium by people putting more than the free match in their 401k. Great way to generate additional sales in the house. And in fact, I think it's probably the least utilized scenario, at least with Family First Life, is that scenario just in itself, is making sure you move money that isn't getting a free match. The second thing is obviously the golden question: do you have anything that acts like life insurance? And I'm going to get detailed in regards to, current 401k, orphan 401ks, how much savings they have, how much they put away for their savings, right?
Yeah.
All those things, because what we're trying to do is find new opportunities for us in the house. Now, the key component is we don't tidal wave sell. So a lot of times when we find things, it's okay, by the way, to talk about things inside of financial inventory, but you got to get back on track and get to the reason why you're there. But it's totally appropriate to be talking about, tax-free retirement when somebody, and basically what you're trying to do is see how interested or check their interest in regards to what you're offering them. So, it's okay to spend some time and say, oh, you got an orphan 401k, where's it at? What's it currently doing? Or whatnot. What are you doing with that money? When do you need it? Yeah. Those types of things, just identifying that. Without those, it's real difficult. And one of the things that Brad said that's extremely important is a lot of times with like credit cards, we can do a 0% for 18 or 24 months through nerdwallet.com, national website, which shops credit cards for you as well. But people, are paying high interest rates on their credit cards, maybe 13 to 20% a lot of times. Right. And it's interesting because they might not have $100 or $200 for your life insurance premium, but they're spending $800 a month on their credit card. Well, if we can show them that we can allocate money to a 0% credit card, maybe take $500 towards the credit card, which is way more that's going towards principal anyways, and then take another $300 and put it towards a life insurance policy. That's another great way to find premium. Yeah. And then the other way about finding premium that I would say is important too, Brad, is when people are paying additional on their mortgage, right? That's a huge scenario.
Absolutely.
If somebody's paying $1,000 extra a month, well, we can show them an arbitrage and say, hey, with an index universal life product, we can get you, 7.53% on your money safely with with a floor and a 13% cap or whatever strategy you're going to put them in. Right. But we can show them options that can make money on their money instead of putting it into their home, or we can do a cash back and show them how to pay off the house early instead of putting it that way. So long story short is there's so many opportunities you create for yourself inside of financial inventory. Your job is to talk about the income, talk about what they pay on their mortgage, talk about their credit cards, talk about what they save, find all the money, find where they're at, because then you can identify the right solution. The biggest problem with sales in general is people never really identify the problem, and then they never give the right solution, Brad, to that problem. Right. So they come in and they think it's X when it's really Y, but you didn't ask enough good questions in the house in order to get to Y. Yeah. So that's financial inventory. You got anything else to share on that?
Well, I guess the last thing that I would say is do not run an appointment until you're in an appointment. So that's just imaginary appointments. I see this lead, I set this appointment. What would you do if you were sitting in front? I get that question from my agents all the time. What should I do for this guy? It's like, well, until you're in the house, it's not real. And until you've gone through the financial inventory, you don't really know what the opportunity is because you don't know what they would qualify for. So don't run appointments until you're in them. Don't jump the gun. And the last thing I will say, the last thing I promise, is that when I identify discretionary income, I have found that most people want to tie for second place or silver. Nobody wants to be first. It's like, oh, you'll be the first one that's ever done this. No. I don't want to be the first. Everyone's okay being, 1,000% tied for silver. It's like, Matt, everyone that I see in your situation does this. Yeah. I keep your monthly premiums between 10 and 15, 20% on the high side of discretionary income. So your price is $130 a month. Now, what we can do with that $130 a month, which is what everyone else does that looks and acts just like you, based on your health profile, your age, your gender, this is what we're going to do. Go ahead and grab your ID and banking information. I'm going to get set up, and I open my laptop. Absolutely. And it's like, it's already done. There's no, should we proceed? What do you think? It's like, no. This is what we are doing. Very assumptive, and keeping something in the budget that you're fairly certain they will qualify for will help your placement and persistency, which is a huge thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thanks for your time. Make sure you utilize it. It's going to open up a tremendous amount of opportunities. The last thing I can tell you is you can have conversations inside of financial inventory. In fact, you can find some great storytelling opportunities just by asking those questions. So, do they currently have life insurance? Do they have, those are times where you can talk about it and you can basically get off script. But the biggest thing that financial inventory will allow you to have in the house is control, and with control comes sales. So appreciate your time. Thanks for tuning in this video, and we'll talk to you soon. Matt Smith here with Family First Life. I'm with our $1 Million producer, Brad Allen, and we're going to cover how to eliminate shopping from your clients, as well as when you meet with an unhealthy client, what to do and how to create value over price and still capture that sale. So generally speaking, a lot of times when you've got people that are shopping, it could be maybe an internet lead, it could be a social media lead, it could be a direct mail lead, because what happens is people fill out multiple forms because they want to make sure they get the best offer. So when we're talking about trying to eliminate shoppers, one thing I've noticed is, generally speaking, the younger they are, the more that they have an online presence and the more that they want to do shopping. So millennials kind of fit into that category. Yes. Although there's plenty of people that do the same thing no matter what age there is. But I think it's important to understand what types of buyers you sit in front of and how to operate in that as well. So when we do this, and Brad, you said it best, and I'll let you go with this, but what are some things that you do to eliminate shopping?
So one of my favorite things to say with somebody is your price that you're looking for is not your price until it is. So when we go through the financial inventory and I'll hear people say, well, I just want to know the price. I just need a quote because I'm looking around. It's like, all right, well, I'm a broker and I have, 12 A-rated companies, and we can look at the cheapest, the most value. My job is to see what you qualify for, and that's the most important thing, because life happens while we're looking around. Yeah. The most important thing is to get you qualified for something. So price is interesting, but it's not your number until it is. Quotes are really meaningless. And I say that again and again in the house. Quotes are meaningless until they're not.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the key components is to say, I could have chose to be a captive agent. I chose to be a broker. We've got 27 different A-rated insurance companies to choose from. You cannot mark up insurance. It's all regulated by the state. True. Now, the key component to me is that peer pressure. You use the example, I'll let you explain that too, is winning that silver award. Right. But when you lump people together and say, based off of your current circumstances, people that purchase their first homes, here's the options and here's why they do it. And then also what's huge, besides that peer pressure, is if you do not story, a lot of times people don't understand, if you don't bring out emotion, right, then you get shopping, because without emotion, right, there's no urgency. Without urgency, there's no reason to move forward. So emotion is what drives the urgency to actually eliminate shopping. So if they know that you can't mark up insurance, right, and you've pitched it with certainty, you've story told, you put them, empathized, identified the problem, right, gave the proper solution to their problem, that's when you start to eliminate the shopping and they trust in you. Yeah. So those are some key factors as well. Anything else you can add? Kind of go over your silver, same scenario.
So on the shopping around, I sat with a gentleman about a year ago, and he said, "Can you improve a price for $3 million?" He was 54 years old. I'm looking for $3 million, and I need it to be under $700 a month. And I've done this a little bit. And so I said, so you have a quote already? And he said, I don't want to talk about that. And I said, okay, well, let me just check. And I went on to my mobile app for Mutual of Omaha, and I did 54-year-old non-smoking male, 10-year term, $3 million. And it was $654 a month. And I said, so are you getting quoted about $650 a month? He said, yes. And I said, so you're 54. And statistically, you will outlive a 10-year term. That's why it's so inexpensive for $3 million. Why do you need $3 million? He said, well, I have 3 daughters. I don't live with them. They're back in North Carolina. He's in Seattle. And I've been an absent father, and I just want to make up for it. And I said, well, so that's interesting. I'm sorry to hear that, but let me show you something that's better. And he's like, sure. And so I said, so 300,000 is more valuable than 3 million. This is to your storytelling thing.
Yep.
And he said, how is 300,000? I need to leave my kids. I need to leave my girls $1 million.
Right.
And I said, so a 20-year term on 300,000, it came in at like $564 a month. So this was on an internet lead. And I said, so at the end of the term, you're going to get X number of dollars back, and you will have had 20 years to restore the relationship with your children. And if you die in the term, either you do or you don't, nobody's going to complain about 100,000 versus $1 million. You're still taking care of your kids. This way, everybody wins. So on a short term, no living benefits, it's just there's no comparison. So Matt, you taught me early on, when value exceeds price, people move, right? Storytell. Show the value, solve a problem, understand exactly what people are looking for. Because I told this gentleman, I said, hey, Bob, 10-year term at that price, it's 110 grand. Just give me the 110 and I'll take it to the river with you and we'll throw it in there, because your kids are not going to see that money. I mean, that's just a waste of your time. So let me show you something that you have no chance of escaping value. And his words, quote, does everybody know about this?
That's a buying quote.
And I said, everybody I talked to. Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's great. So yeah, just understanding, if you're with those practical people, because those are that type of buyers where you have to explain things in more detail, right?
Right.
Make sure they understand what is out there. The last thing I would say as far as eliminating price on the table is explaining fully underwritten versus simplified issue. Fully underwritten is where, you take your blood and urine, dig into your medical records, have your parents' history, and if your bill's off, if you're, taking a medication or two, you're going to get table rated significantly. So I can quote you the best price. The problem is when you come to the car lot and there's one at this price, then you're going to see that we don't have that vehicle in stock, and now you're in a completely different vehicle.
Yep.
And this is why simplified issue makes sense, because the price will be the price. We still have to get you qualified,
exactly.
But it makes more sense for your specific health reasons. And then once they understand the landscape of fully underwritten versus simplified issue,
right,
they understand how to move out of that product and why simplified issue makes the most amount of sense for them. So, great job there as well. Let's pivot now to unhealthy client close.
Okay. Yep.
This is a type of lead where new producers fail and can't stand it, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But the veteran agents,
Yeah.
they want to get their hands on every single unhealthy client at whatever age.
Very motivated.
Most of the time it's older people,
right,
and most of the time it's somebody that's wanting $500,000 of life insurance online, or
right,
has a $300,000 mortgage and wants that whole mortgage paid off, but they're only eligible for a $30,000 final expense policy because maybe they have a stent, or maybe they have some sort of heart history, or maybe they're on oxygen, or maybe due to some health condition they can't get simplified issue term products or any sort of permanent product other than final expense types products. So that's an unhealthy scenario. Brad, what have you done to help explain that and capture the sale with an unhealthy client?
So I would say I typically see one of two unhealthy type clients. Either they're young and they have something, so they can't get into a whole life policy that has a more relaxed underwriting guideline. Mm-hmm. So they're under age 45.
Yep.
Because Mutual of Omaha will go down on the living promise to 45, everyone else 50. So they're too young to get into a whole life, and they're too sick. So then I put them into Mutual of Omaha Guaranteed Advantage Accidental, and I simply say that per the CDC guidelines, mortality table, number one cause of death at your age group. Good news, bad news, Mr. Smith. Good news. Good news is the absolute, you qualify for this. And good news, bad news is it's the number one cause of death at your age group. It is just accidental. And I can come back when you get a little bit older, but it's the number one cause of death. So it's the most suitable recommendation I can get for you. And the really good news is it's a return of premium. So if you get to the end of the term, you are still alive, then it was just a savings account with an accidental death benefit attached to it. And it just happens to be the most common reason that you're going to die at this age range. So I do a lot of accidental for people like on dialysis, or they have some health qualification that doesn't allow them to be in term or universal, and they're too young for whole. So that's number one. Number two would be somebody that's just, older and they've got a lot of health problems. Could be recent stroke, cancer, or something like that, where, typically we do the instant approval with an Eagle, an Americo Eagle, and then, American Amicable, Prosperity, all the way to AIG. I sat with a couple, it was about a week ago, and she was schizophrenic and she was COPD. And I just stopped there.
Sure.
I think there was a lot of other things going on. And the husband said, we just want $20,000. So I knew it was AIG.
Right.
And that's a really solid client. They will be on the Christmas card list. Right. They loved me sitting with them. When I set the appointment, they said, you might as well not waste your time. We're uninsurable.
Yeah.
And I said, I haven't met anybody that's uninsurable. As long as you're within this age range, 14 days old up to 89, I got you.
Yeah.
I can find something for you for almost every situation. Let me come and sit with you. And they were so happy. They were really happy.
That's great. I think one of the key components with the unhealthy client is you'll have scenarios where, 30,000 isn't enough for me. And it's like, you got to realize, first of all, 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. They most likely don't even have $30,000 in the bank. Right. And the biggest thing I tell people is like, it's again, painting pictures, storytelling, all that stuff. But it's like, hey, listen, you've got $7,000 saved up. That's your life savings at age 71.
Yeah.
If I put $30,000 tax-free into your account right now, both of you would be jumping for joy. Would you not? Would you agree? Because we just, basically quadrupled your net worth overnight.
Right.
So, John, when you're gone, why aren't we going to give Mary the exact same feeling and have her jump for joy and give her a $30,000 check to give her time to lose your income, to give her time to make the mortgage payments, to give her time for all that stuff? The other scenario that you see when people have mortgages is you can paint a picture where, let's say, $30,000 is $254 a month.
Right.
And how I've always explained it, and I draw out a graph, but I say, listen, your home is appreciating over time. And this is where you, again, kill them on paper in the house so they understand, what this is going to look like.
Right.
So your home appreciates. You're paying down your mortgage like this, pay a lot of the interest up front, then it falls off.
Right. John,
John, you're 71. Let's say, unfortunately, you'll die at age 81.
Right.
Right now you owe $250,000 on your house. Your house is worth $300,000.
Right.
Okay. And in 10 years, let's say your house is worth $350,000. Well, in 10 years, you're going to owe about $150,000 on your house because you pay a lot of the interest up front. So we got $200,000 worth of equity there, John and Mary. Right. And what this $30,000 for $254 a month does, it's not the 30 grand. It's the 30 grand plus that 200,000 is why you're paying the $254. So John and Mary, can you see why this makes financial sense? Absolutely. And now you close that deal. Yeah. But without the explanation and the storytelling and taking a point and saying, let's say you die here,
right,
then we're really not living through that scenario and saying, what is it really going to look like?
Yep.
So once again, emotion in sales brings out urgency. 95% of people make decisions based off of emotion.
Yeah.
So understanding you've got to make logical sense, understanding bringing emotion, that's going to create the urgency, and understanding that they're really not in a financial position, Brad, to say no.
Yeah, and nobody complains about tax-free death benefits, even if it was $5,000. And this is something I do say in the house. When they say, well, that's not enough, I say, well, when I deliver death benefits, it's a $10,000 swing. Instead of a $5,000 bill that somebody has to pay, they're getting a $5,000 check. So that's a $10K swing. And I haven't met a single person that says no to tax-free, no probate, fast cash regardless of the dollar amount.
Absolutely. That's strong. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I hope this video finds you well. I hope it brings more success to you, and we look forward to working with you soon. Thank you, guys.
Hey everyone, my name is John Gavin. I'm here with Jessica Powers, and today we're going to be covering travel trips. And I love that we got this topic because early on in my career, I did some travel trips, and it was out of necessity because we didn't have any leads where I was. And so I flew halfway across the country and had some incredible success in doing so. And so nowadays, a travel trip, what is a travel trip? A travel trip is basically, a flight, anywhere from 1 to 3 hours from your residence, or a drive of 6 hours plus, where you get out of town. You have your preset appointments there. It gives you the ability to focus without distractions. You can eliminate I need to think about it because you're not coming back tomorrow. And they're so incredibly profitable. We see, all these posts for people, traveling to anywhere from, Hawaii to New Mexico, Missouri, and it doesn't matter where, in the CRM, we have the heat map. So now it literally shows you where the leads are. And so a lot of people are filling their schedules in with these periodic travel trips. And so, and making a crazy amount of money in a short period of time. And Jessica's had some very successful trips. And so why don't you walk us through how you set up? Because it's very important, if you're going to take the time to take time away from your family, to get on a plane, to drive 6+ hours someplace, you want to make sure that you're really set up for success. And like I said, Jessica's done a great job in doing that. So Jessica, why don't you walk us through how you approach a travel trip, how you set yourself up, and some of the things you do to ensure your success along the way.
Perfect, absolutely. Well, I will say I love travel trips. In the beginning, I was a little nervous to do them because it was something that was outside of my comfort zone, but I've made it my mission here is to always do stuff that was outside of my comfort zone. What I can say is I've done a few of them. I think the most that I did in a weekend was a little under 30,000. The other one was about 20, and the other one was about 15,000.
But just we go through that so fast.
Yes.
So you made $30,000 in your first travel trip.
Yes.
And how many days were you away for that one?
I was gone for 3 days.
So 3 days and 30,000. And the second one
Was I think it was about 15,000. Again, 3 days. And then my one after that I did was 20,000, again, 3 days. So the way that I'll set this up, and I appreciate you slowing it down, because I think that that's kind of the fun thing, but sometimes we forget, is to slow down and to actually realize.
Like where else can you make $30,000 in 3 days? Yeah, I just don't know where else you can. And so it's crazy that we have that ability, but sorry for interrupting, go ahead.
That's okay. So if I'm going to set up my travel trip, here's what I'm going to do. I am going to find an area, like through the heat map, like John mentioned on our CRM, and I'm going to start collecting leads. I'm going to be very intentional about my travel trips. I'm going to plan a couple weeks in advance. I'm going to start collecting, especially when we've been having the coupon codes, et cetera, that have been going through. I'm going to nab up any lead that I can get in that area. I usually will drive 4 or 5 hours from my home. I'll purchase my leads, like I said, collecting them up. And for 2 days before I drive and go on my trip, I'm dialing. So I do 2 full days of dials.
Okay.
When I was going on my travel trip, my drop dead minimum to even go on my travel trip is 30 appointments. If I don't have 35, I feel a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I book my appointments, if they're mortgage protection or internet, I book them every hour or 45 minutes. If they're final expense, I'll book them about every 30 minutes. When I'm tying them down, I'm going to be very, very, very good about telling them, please allow a window of flexibility. I'm helping a lot of families. When I'm booking my appointments, if I'm from a different area code, I'm going to use a burner app to match my same area code.
And just explain a burner app and how that works. So some people are probably not familiar with that term.
Absolutely. So on my phone, I'll go through, say if I've got an Apple, I'll go through the Apple Store, or Android will be the Play Store. You can just type in burner app. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're free, sometimes you pay a couple dollars. It gives you a phone number you can do a phone number that'll actually go through your phone, and it'll create a cell phone number for me.
So when the caller ID pops up, the
Exactly.
lead or potential client sees a local area code.
Exactly.
Got it, okay.
Because then it's more, people are more inclined to answer the phone if they know it's a local number,
Yep.
right? Especially nowadays, the phone, people are really inundated with phone calls, telemarketers, etc. So if I'm calling them and I'm telling them that I'm a local agent here for Skagit County and I'm calling from a really crazy area code, well, they're gonna question that.
Yeah.
Right? So I'll book up my appointments for 2 days. Like I said, 30 to 35 appointments. I don't book my hotel even until I'm driving there, to be honest, because I want to make sure that I am completely committed to this trip.
Yeah.
When I go, I'm intentional. There's no distractions, right? I pack food in my car. I'm not there to hang out. I'm not there to relax. I'm there to get indoors and help families,
Yep.
right? I'm not coming back. I don't do second visits, right? So it makes you a lot more bold in the home. To the point where I sat down, to give you an example real quick, is I sat down with a gentleman. I asked him why he didn't have any life insurance in the beginning.
Yeah.
He told me it's because, he's a tightwad. So at the very end, I go, with all due respect, John, you told me you don't have life insurance because you're a tightwad. I think it's now time to change that. Right? Because I wasn't going to take that. I'm going to think about it. Right? So being intentional with that, I always leave. So I'll run for 3 days. I have at least 10 appointments booked for each of those days that I'm there. Yeah. So if I drive down on a Thursday, I'll have a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday that I'll have my three days of 30 appointments. I like to do the weekends because people are more available. Yep. So I want to run when people are more relaxed, right? I want to work when everybody else is happy.
Yes.
Then I leave my Monday. I don't come home until the evening because I know over the course of my Friday, Saturday, and Sunday that people are going to have rescheduled on me, etc. So I can now move those people to my Monday. Yeah. So then I'm being more intentional with my time. I always bring my leads with me, so that way if I have some time that maybe somebody fell off, etc., I can door knock, I can still dial. Whatever I'm doing is always income producing activity. It's not to go to the mall that's there by, I'm there to work, right? And then I'm going to make sure that I'm if somebody asks you, I want to give one tip. So if somebody asks you, oh, do you live here? If you sometimes feel uncomfortable with that, I will say something along the line of, I'm helping out in the area, or I'm moving here. Do you like it here? I was thinking about the town over, which one's better, things like that. Yeah. It can help to kind of eliminate that.
Yep, absolutely.
I know that that's something that can be uncomfortable for people, but again, this is an investment in yourself. This is a way where you can get big results really quickly. Yeah,
absolutely. Right? And in the travel trips, we don't do enough of them now because we're so comfortable, because we can order, Facebook leads within a 25-mile radius of our home. And too many people are reactive, where they just wait for new leads to come in and then buy those. But when we've got the heat map that shows there's 257 instant internet leads in a city not too far from you, you can go ahead and buy those and travel out there. But some of the things that you touched on are, when you're away, there's something about when you're away and traveling that you're hyper focused on what you're doing. Okay, because the only place to go back to is your hotel room, which you don't want to sit around and do that all day. So you book those appointments back to back to back. You stack them in there. I've done enough trips where, when people did say they want to think about it, I let them know I'm hopping on a plane tomorrow and I'm not coming back, so there is no time to think about it. And I've actually written a lot of insurance that way, because it takes that off the table of them saying, why don't you give me a call in 3 days? Well, in 3 days I'll be back in Washington. I won't be here, and so it builds a sense of urgency with some people there as well too. The other thing is that when you're doing these trips, you're so focused, you stack your appointments back to back, you run a lot more, but also because there's an abundance of leads there, that means it's a great place to hire as well too. And so what a lot of people are doing is you buy all the leads you possibly can. You don't buy just the right amount. You buy more leads than you possibly think you can use, because you never can have enough. You set as many appointments as you can, and then you place ads in that area, because it's already proven to produce an abundance of leads. We have, if there's leads available and we're doing a travel trip there, that means we don't have an agent there that's actually running those. And so it's a great place to, hand your leads off to. If you have, do some interviews, hire some folks afterwards, And not only do they have the leads that they're producing, but you can pass the leads off that you have, or maybe some people that you had to follow up with that couldn't meet with you on those given appointments, and then pass those off to a new agent that comes on board as well too. And so the travel trips that people are doing now, if you see the numbers that people are putting up, it's 3 days of hard work, but it's $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 into your bank account. And I don't know of another industry that you can do that in. You can just dial it up and go someplace for 3 days and make more money than most people make in a full month. And so they're extremely profitable. And so, Jessica and I are here to say that we've both had great success doing them. And as long as you set them up, the way Jessica says you do, dialing a couple days in advance, guaranteeing that you have at least 30 appointments set for 3 days or 10 per day when you're going there, and you work with that sense of urgency, I think you'll have great success as well too. So travel trips are a great way to, if you have a little bit of little white space in your calendar and you want to fill it up, getting out of town one way or the other is a great way to be profitable. Thank you.